Well, here we go. We're walking into the Desoto County Board of County Commissioners meeting, and we're going to see what they have to say about allowing biosolids to be imported into the county to be turned into compost and used for fertilizer. So, this is live, raw, uncut, unedited. Here we go.
Good to see ya.
You too.
Oh, wow.
Excuse me.
Oh, shit. I guess I gotta sit up front, huh?
Yes.
Jesus.
All right. Where do I find the link? You're gonna send me the link.
It's on my Facebook right now, so you're gonna have to just share it from there. I need a good spot. I need. Hi. Hello. Yeah, I'm gonna try and connect this to a chair so I don't have to hold it the whole time. If I go. Yeah. Well, who's here? Is this Teresa?
I'll move over.
Okay. And then we're gonna have to move her ass over one again. I'm sure she won't mind though.
Okay.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome all y'all to our 6:30 p.m. public hearing. I wanted to let you know, before we get into the process we're going to do tonight, we had one agenda item deferred for a future meeting, and that's going to be agenda item number 16. So I have a few speaker cards for that. I want to let y'all know up front, so you don't have to wait too long. If you're here just for 16, we're not going to hear that one tonight. That was the Allied recycling item. If you'd like to speak on an item tonight and you haven't already, please go ahead and fill out one of these pink forms that are on the podium at the rear of the room. Put the agenda item that you'd like to speak about and your name, and then turn it in up to Ms. Sylvia. So if anybody hasn't turned one of those in yet that would like to speak, please do that. We would like to hear from everybody that has something they'd like to share. At this time, the Board of County Commissioners will conduct public hearings on land use matters that are on our agenda. I'm going to ask our county attorney to explain the procedures that we'll use for these hearings.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everybody. As indicated, this is a quasi-judicial hearing. The hearing will be conducted by the Board of County Commissioners, which will hear testimony from county staff, the applicant, and the public. Anyone who wishes to speak today will need to complete a comment card and be sworn in and placed under oath. When you are called on to speak, please state your name for the record, your address, and whether you've been sworn in. The material in the board's agenda package will be considered as part of the record. As a matter of procedure, the county staff will present first. After the county staff has made their presentation, the applicant will then make their presentation in support of their application. Thereafter, the hearing will be opened up to members of the public who may speak either in support of or against the pending application. After members of the public speak, both staff and the applicant may make any additional statements or rebuttal. Thereafter, the public hearing portion of the item will be closed and the board will commence their deliberations. Ultimately, the decision made by the board at the conclusion of the hearing must be based on competent, substantial evidence, which has been presented during the course of this hearing. Competent, substantial evidence includes expert testimony, fact-based comments of laypersons. Opinion testimony may be considered, but only by witnesses who have been qualified and accepted as experts. It does not include conjecture, speculation, or generalized statements of support or opposed to a matter. At this time, all persons who will be witnesses in this matter, please raise your right hand to be sworn, including anybody who intends to provide comment today. And can you please swear in the witnesses? Thank you.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'll turn it back over to the chairman.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask whether any commissioners have had any ex parte communications about any of the items on our agenda. And before I call on the first one, I'll ask Ms. Valerie to kind of clarify, go back over the ex parte real quick.
Yes. So previously, the county's procedure for ex parte disclosures were done pursuant to a form that was completed after the hearing. Currently, the new process is going to involve making those ex parte disclosures now on the record. So if you can, we'll go one by one, and for purposes of disclosure, verbally just state who you spoke to and what you spoke about, and if you conducted any site visits or investigations, to please also disclose that at this time.
Thank you. I'll start on this end with Commissioner Gross.
Okay, I have had numerous conversations in person with Mr. Newt King in the office to discuss Osceola Organics. Next one is Brooks Armstrong and emails to us as commissioner. The next one was in person, and then also phone calls and emails through by Mrs. Tracy Hopple. Also phone calls and texts from Mr. B.C. Hollingsworth, text and a site visit to Osceola Organics in Claremont, and also in the Keensville location. I met with Josh Arnold and then one of their managers there. Brooks Armstrong as an email, and then also spoke with Miss Beth Thornton on phone call.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Gross. Commissioner Langford.
Yes, I have 3 that I can, remember that I've had, since the last meeting that we had, and anything prior to that was already done at the previous meeting. Don't need to be a part of the new stuff.
If you filled out the forms for that, then that would be okay, those will be included as part of the record.
Okay, alright, so this time, I have Miss Lou Hoopengardner, which was a phone call, Miss Beth Thornton, which was a phone call, and I've spoken with, D.C. Hollingsworth for a phone call.
Concerning the application.
This time.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Hickox.
I've had a phone call with Miss Beth Thornton, and I sat down and spoke with Miss Tracy Hopple in person. And then, other than that, nothing since the previous meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Schaefer.
I have, and I had a site visit and spoke with these people I'm going to name at Keensville, and it was on April the 15th. Madam Maxfield, which is my sister-in-law, went with me up there to see the thing and everything, and Jeff Griffiths, John Arnold, Ken Whaley, and Newt King were all there, and we all was in discussion with this. The same day, Madeline and I left and went to Claremont, and we spoke to Jackson Arnold there, and I also spoke by phone with B.C. Hollingsworth in concerning the application and stuff. I talked to one of the neighbors, Murphy, and he was talking about the application, and I also talked to Beth Thornton.
Thank you. And myself, Commissioner Desoto, I have spoken with a number of constituents. I can't say that I can name every one of them, but a lot of them overlap. I think they all overlap with what I've already heard. I also went up actually yesterday to Kenansville, and I looked at, I spoke with Mr. Kevin Whaley, the ranch owner there, on the phone. We weren't able to cross paths and actually get a tour, but I did drive to the site and looked at the proximity of their residences to his operation, and the wind was blowing my way, so I was able to smell what was there. And I saw some trucks coming in and out. I was there for a little while. And on my way back, I stopped at another site that's unrelated but does the same thing on State Road 8. I don't know what it's called exactly, but it's in Lake Placid on State Road 8. And I heard some pros and cons about that, which I wanted to go see it for myself, so I drove over and looked at that one. It's between 27. It's between 27 and State Road 8 on the south end of Lake Placid. So, other than that, and I actually purchased some from that place probably 3 or 4 weeks ago and spread it on my own to do a test at my property. So, I have some first-hand knowledge of what it looks like and smells like too. I think that's the extent of my Exparte thing. Oh, and I did speak with, on the applicant side, Mr. Hollingsworth also, so I think that's everything there.
Okay, so with respect to the Osceola Organics matter, because this is a continuation of the hearing from the last meeting, the written ex parte disclosures that were provided will be included as part of the record in addition to what's been stated. And as a reminder that the decision today shall be based on competent substantial evidence in today's hearing as well as from the last.
Thank you. I guess there's more than one Mr. Hollingsworth in here, so I should say Mr. B.C. Hollingsworth. Make sure we get everything right. All right.
I need to add 2 more to mine.
Okay.
I have talked to Ms. Tracy Hoffel and to Kim Moore, so we need to add them to my list.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Just before we begin the public hearings, I want to go ahead and let everybody know, most of y'all have been here before and you know, everybody that wants to speak can fill out a card and I'll have a chance to speak, but please, we expect it from both sides of an issue to be very respectful. Don't jump in there and, do a little, people that are all allied in their same goal tend to want to kind of cheer each other on, but this isn't the place for that. Just stick with what you have to say when it's your time to say it, and don't do any crosstalk over someone who's at the dais, and we'll ask anybody else to do the same for you. So that'll save us from having to get into any kind of disagreement about what's okay and what's not. We appreciate that. We'll move on now, and first item on our agenda that we're going to hear is going to be 17 because number 16 was deferred. So we're going to start with agenda item number 17, and we'll start with the county staff presentation. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Misty Servia. I'm the Planning Director for Desoto County. I have been sworn, and I wish you all a happy Earth Day. Today is Earth Day. Because this is a continuance of a hearing, what you're going to see is a very short presentation, but I do want to tell you what has happened since the last hearing. So the previous hearing was March 25th, and since that time, as early as yesterday, the applicant requested the elimination of one of the parcel ID numbers. You have that in the paperwork that's been provided to you. I have the parcel ID number listed up here. It's been removed from the special exception application. And I asked the applicant to confirm that that parcel ID was not a part of the area that was the leased area for the proposed activity, because there was very little time between when this decision was made and tonight's hearing, and they have confirmed it's not a part of the lease area. And I also asked them to take a look at the resolution, which I've revised for you, and there's a revised resolution for you. And I asked the applicant to please make sure the parcel ID numbers shown did properly reflect the lease area, and they gave me that assurance too. Tonight, we're also recommending an additional condition, and this is related to the elimination of that one parcel that I just described. And the new condition that's recommended reads, the applicant shall demonstrate access to the leased parcel across land owned by IMC Agrico Company, parcel ID number 10-37-23-000-0025-000 via easement or other document providing for same prior to approval of the improvement plan. And just so you understand, the parcel removed did create a little space between where the access on State Road 70 was originally shown and the leased parcel. So the applicant's going to need to get an easement from that property owner to provide the access he needs. And I understand that's not a problem. So there is a revised resolution. In the event you want to change it or approve it or deny it, it is there for your review tonight. As well as a new exhibit, which is titled A.1. That will be attached to the resolution, and it graphically shows the parcel that's to be removed, and it also is the property appraiser's information about that specific parcel. I've also provided a new motion for your consideration that talks about these changes, and that is everything that I have. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, Miss Steve, could you, I saw it on the map there, but I just kind of want to explain. We have some diagrams here, but can you show that map again of the parcel that's been removed?
Yeah, I do wish I had a better exhibit for you, but if you can see the area outlined in red, that highlights one parcel of land. That's the subject parcel that's being removed from this request. It's approximately 90 acres, and it is owned by IMC Agrico Company. So they are no longer a part of this application. They were a co-applicant, tonight they're no longer. And that parcel is no longer a part of this subject. So when you look at the red outlined parcel, you can see State Road 70 runs at an angle. Do you see that, which is
Yes,
south of the parcel? And that's where the access is going to be taken, and it's going to head north. Oh, good, thank you. Are you someone pointing?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So State Road 70, if you could point to that, Sylvia, it's right there. See that road? No, it's up a little bit. It runs at a diagonal like this. Yeah, that's State Road 70. And then the access that will take place runs from State Road 70 straight up. And so it's going to have to cross that red outlined area, creating a gap in the access to the leased parcel, which is north of that red parcel. I hope that describes it. So there's a need for an access easement across that parcel that's no longer a part of the application. The applicant is sure that they can receive that, and he'll tell you more about that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Staff right now?
No, it's not.
No? Okay. Thank you, Missy. We'll go ahead and ask the applicant if you'd like to come up and present your case in support of the application.
Thank you. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. We do have a little bit of material to cover. When it comes to the
Your name and address for the record, again, please.
John Arnold, directing manager of Osceola Organics. To just visit the, while that's up, Attorney Cole Brewer is here to elaborate any, if any further explanation is needed on the parcel that was removed and the reasons why. and then I can, just kind of go over some of the things that we'd like to point out in the application as we proceed, and also identify some of the other witnesses. I've asked my engineer, my civil engineer that's permitted the other two facilities to come to attest to the fact that the work area and the parcel that we're proposing to build a facility is not in a flood zone. And there's been a lot of speculation in the community that it's in a flood zone, and concerns about water during hurricanes. And I get it. I mean, I certainly don't want my facility to be in an area or have inadequate drainage and stuff, but it's not in a flood zone, and that's not to be confused with a wetland. I mean, a wetland is even lower than, and a flood zone is during extreme high weather or high water, and those areas could be flooded. We're not in a flood zone, and then on top of that, we are proposing to build the facility above grade, 3 to 5 feet in some areas. So it's designed, it's permitted, the stormwater process, the stormwater system has been approved by the Water Management District. I think he can attest to the fact that we built the facility in Osceola and in Lake with a lot of overkill. We go above and beyond what's required. I think it's important to recognize that the facility is not only engineered to handle these storm events, but also that the other facilities during hurricanes have proven not to have any issue with runoff and all. You know, any speculation is purely that. It's just speculation. I mean, our facilities have to be inspected right after a storm, and Milton came through Osceola. Osceola, for those of you all have visited, it's built way above grade, out of a flood zone, kind of similar to what we're proposing here. Tonight, the board is going to vote on a privately funded, hard surface, largely covered facility built outside of the flood zone, but we're 5 miles from Pine Level, and but from Pine Level, the community. I understand people have addresses a little closer. The Newt's address is 2.6 miles from this site. We feel like after your site visits, you all, those of you that did go to each facility, can attest to the fact that we are a fully compliant, very, very low odor. We're not offensive to the neighbors. And we run a really tight operation. Earth Day, it reminds us of environmental responsibility. What better day to, address this application? And we believe this application is a responsible way to return nutrients to their origin, which is the soil, not the landfill. And these nutrients didn't come from the wastewater treatment plant. I mean, the bulk of it is actually storm debris. And speaking of storm debris and traffic and things, there's a lot of storm debris and ground mulch and stuff that comes through town, and it's coming from the west. Arguably, we are offering an option to divert that material as it comes into DeSoto County, and it's the first road on the left, on the north side of 70. That storm debris can be diverted and used for agriculture rather than traveling through town. I mean, this facility offers that option, and again, it's privately funded. We're not asking for the county to kick in, money or the cost share or anything like that. I think this is, from what I've heard from the community and then what my group has pointed out is, And then what the farmers are pointing out, and the ranchers, is we have basically two choices here. One is to limit the availability of fertilizer to water-soluble, synthetic, petroleum-dependent fertilizer that contributes to the degradation of the watershed. And the other, the option with this choice is that we're limiting also, to the synthetic fertilizer. We're basically saying if a farmer wants to, if he wants to use compost, it's a high quality it has a fertilizer value, they're gonna have to get it from outside of the county, which it is available. It is available outside of the county. We're just proposing to be able to make it here. We've got all the storm debris, we've got the raw materials, we've got we've got the resources. And otherwise, this mulch that's piled up around the county is just gonna sit there. It's not compost if it's just ground up wood chips. It needs nutrients, and it needs a methodology for it to be converted into something that's usable for agriculture. So our one choice is to limit farmers to synthetics. And with that, Mr. Hollingsworth he's considering a considerable amount of conservation land. If given this permit, we're with thousands of acres that would be going into conservation. And the option of giving us the opportunity.
I have a question for you, John, just to clarify. Are you saying that doing this, the conservation deal is contingent on this?
I'm not saying it's contingent, no, but I'm saying it makes it more viable. Because having basically a free nutrient, and it's not subsidized, it's just a reliable nutrient stream, creates a much more economically viable farming operation. I mean, and when you raise more cattle per acre, more sod, more hay, and you have a more productive operation, you raise production costs. You raise production and lower your production costs at the same time. It makes your operation obviously makes it much more sustainable. And that's what we're after here. And with that, with supplementing compost as opposed to using synthetics that are water soluble, the compost is much more environmentally, it is by far a much more environmentally responsible way to fertilize land because it's slow release, it's not highly water soluble. The plant available constituents in the compost are slow release. It's a much slower release form of nutrients for the plants. So when you do have a rain event or a storm event, you don't have the amount of nutrient runoff and leaching that you do with synthetics. That's a given. Well, I think everybody in this room knows that synthetics are highly soluble and have been, villainized for. And I'm not an environmentalist here. I'm just saying that, we've got problems with red tide and stuff that's caused. That's been said to be, one of the larger contributors is phosphates and nitrogens, things that are water-soluble, man-made fertilizers. We do not, and just for the record, we do not add any type of man-made products in terms of, we don't add anything to this product. We just use the natural resources that are available. They're going up and down the highway, whether it's biosolids or wood chips, pre-consumer food waste, which is the salads and things that they're pre-made, and they cut the core of the apples out and things like that before it goes to the dinner table. In these food processing facilities, we take equestrian waste and whatever is good that makes good compost. It's been asked, what's in it for the county, and that I think, landfilling biosolids is just not. There's no it's hard to find anybody that is a proponent of landfilling any kind of resource if it's usable, responsibly usable for humanity. And that's what we're proposing to do. We have other facilities that we can stand on that we have a good reputation with the local communities around us. And understandably, when we were in the permitting phases, there were community members that came out and were opposed to the other two facilities, and they were concerned more with it would be noise, or because we're close, really close to, like, the one in Lake County, we're 950 feet away from a neighborhood, 2,500 homes. There's a public school there. They were concerned about noise and odor more than truck traffic and stuff. I've never seen such kind of resistance that we've had with this Facebook campaign against my company, against the Hollingsworth family, and even the board. It's just the damage control that we've had to do and go around town. And we're not building the facility on Highway 70 right across from Pine Level. It's going 5 miles away. Everybody that has been vehemently opposed to this they're on well and septic and saying how we're going to contaminate their drinking water when we're 5 miles away at a well-designed, elevated, hard surface facility that's built above the floodplain, that the composting areas where you can look at the plant and see that the majority of the area, that the work surface out there, we're spending a considerable amount of money to cover, to keep the material covered. And our facilities have withstood hurricanes. And I think it's really unfortunate that the slanderous campaign against those who either, my group, the property owners, and some of the elected officials it's just ridiculous. It's been very disrespectful. And, I can move on from that, but the witnesses that I would like to mention that are available if the board needs to question some of the statements that will be made on behalf, as I mentioned, Cole Brewer, attorney for the counsel for the landowner, and possibly Julie Morris, if she's here, will testify to the details of the conservation program that they're part of, and the rural family lands program. Dan Hayes, PE, he's the civil engineer of record for all three facilities, actually. Tom Ottermott, he is a consultant on the quality of the process and quality control. Rick Leon will testify. He's an environmental engineer, been in biosolids for 35 years, and he can testify to the best management practices application and compliance monitoring, in which some of that is it's part of our condition to report also to the county. A lot of the reports that we will file with DEP, monthly and annual reports, it's been asked in our conditions that, in the condition of the permitting, that we also copy the county, and he can attest to that in the methodology. Mr. Hollingsworth is here to also back what Engineer Hayes will testify to in terms of the facility being built outside of a flood zone and above grade, and as far as I know, Hector Manriquez or I believe his father, they work as cattle managers on the property. They may be available to attest that Engineer Hayes, Mr. Hollingsworth, and his two employees can attest to the fact that right after Ian, that area that we have selected just for this reason was not underwater. Of course, it's going to be soggy, but I mean, it's been wet, everything's flooding around the area, but our work surface and our work area and many acres around that area is in a dry, high spot. That's why we selected it. We selected it specifically because it's already naturally high. I want to also point out something here that I'm sorry, just gonna get through this. I do have a map, just if we could put this up, or do you have a way to project this? Just to show where it is from. This is a yellow line that originates from the intersection of Pine Level Road and Highway 70, and it's drawn to the site as the crow flies. It's 5.5 miles, and we're going to put this up, and then I'll talk about a couple of things that, if just in the event that if anyone is interested, I do have samples from our facility, samples from Arcadia's wastewater treatment facility here that I took. It's just something in a jar here, but this material literally, it doesn't have any odor. I've already tested on somebody that didn't know what it was. They were like, I guess it's dirt. What is it? It has no offensive odor. And then synthetic fertilizer that I bought, and it has biosolids already in it. So this is not something we're asking the community or the board or any entity to allow us to like bring biosolids. Biosolids is in the fertilizer that the Hollingsworth uses. They also purchase compost with biosolids in it. It's made by Synagro. We're just proposing to make it here. I've got samples of all this material, and the campaign, and I'm trying to run through this, I'm almost finished, but I have to point out two more things. There's been a really almost malicious campaign against the project, the board, and also the just us out, our reputation, the Hollingsworth family, and it's when we had our planning commission meeting, I explicitly said and made the statement that we are not associated with any other entity other than our composting company. And then at our board meeting, I swore under oath we were not associated with any other entity. We are solely owned. We're not a puppet company for any other interest. And then some of the people at the back up a little bit, at the planning and zoning meeting, were using interchangeably. They were saying it's sewage sludge and sewage sludge. The biosolids is completely different than sewage sludge. And Missy was nice enough to point out the fact that
everybody will get a chance to talk.
The group and said, "Hey, wait a minute. Let's get this right. We're not talking
They'll
about
take all
sewage
the
sludge.
cards.
We're talking about biosolids." And then she read the definition, and it's treated. Sewage sludge is considered not treated. It's raw material as it comes in, or it hasn't been fully through the process, such as the material I have in this jar. The biosolids is a fully treated just a few years ago, and even today they allow Class B to be put on pastures. It just because of the voluminous amount of paperwork and stuff that goes with that, we've elected to commit completely and wholly to composting, to make a AA registered fertilizer. It is authorized by the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and encouraged for beneficial reuse. And we can sell or give away the product it's unrestricted. You can use it on roadsides, public places, and it's any accusations of it making people sick or being dangerous or using out-of-state lawsuits and isolated events where there's a 300-acre farm somewhere out here or somewhere in another state, or they're here or there. And these lawsuits were settled or dismissed, and to say that people get sick from this material. I mean, them wastewater people, they take on illnesses less frequently than people that don't work in wastewater.
Mr. John, I think, sorry to interrupt you, but some of those things, I think we're able to parse out the wheat from the chaff, so you don't have to go through
Okay,
every
thank you.
possible scenario of what somebody could claim that's wrong.
Okay, I appreciate that. Not to say it's me some here.
Yeah.
Myself and a couple of members of our team, family members and such, has been out educating people in Arcadia about what we want to do, because we want to be good neighbors. We are agriculturalists, we are ranchers. We've been in the citrus business, 4th generation. I do want to submit this hard-earned, this is not a petition. These are letters, these are signatories of support for this project. And it's a difference between heresy and truly informed signatures that were all of our people that signed this document were given this, and I need to submit this. We have 294 names, and we're still missing one sheet, so we would be over 300 names of people supporting this project. It's needed, and I believe we have the community support, anybody that takes the time to understand it. We've taken people that were vehemently misinformed and settled them down, and then before we knew it, they're like, okay, I see, I understand it, okay. And they look at the website, they do a little research. There are some bad examples and bad players and bad actors in any business, but we're not that guy. We're not that company. And I think that the board has done their due diligence and have done that research. Where should I would like would you guys mind maybe passing it? We earned it hard. This was like 3 weeks of out there, okay.
She'll pass that. Thank you, John. We'll need a copy of that if that's the only copy you have.
No, I made copies, because ironically, a lot of the folks that signed up for it were like, let me know how it goes, and if you get it up and running, give me a shout, or if guess you're gonna do a mail out or something. I was like, I don't know, we'll see where it goes, but the agricultural community wants the product, they need it. I think Mr. Hollinsworth can attest to that. And then the last thing I want to, the so-called petition that was circulated by the opposition, it makes a statement. It's interesting because I kind of agree with it. It says that biosolids composting has been ranked to an unpleasant odor nuisance for residential areas nearby. Okay, all composting. It doesn't matter what kind of composting it is. Composting in general can create odors for residential areas nearby. We are miles from people, but at the same time, we're 950 feet in Lake County from 2,500 homes. So it can, but in our operation, because of the fact that we're very, very meticulous in the material that we pick, and I vet this, and my employees vet it, we go to the facilities, we don't sign up any contracts that we do a test load, If it works out fine, we'll take 2 or 3 more. We're very, very cautious. And that's why we've been successful. And we don't have neighbors raising Cain because our operation is running amok and causing problems in the neighborhood. If we did, we would be on top of it, because we certainly want to run an operation that's compliant. It's not in my best interest to take material that is problematic for the community. So I'm on the same page. I understand the concerns, and if anybody has a dog in that hunt, it's us. Lastly, and the city of Arcadia is, I think everyone knows that we're about to undergo a major retrofit of the facility, the wastewater treatment facility at Highway 70 at the river. The discharging of effluent has been discontinued. I've spent a lot of time down there in the last week, and that's been discontinued, so that the last link in the environmental responsibility puzzle is figuring out something to do with biosolids. So they have a multi-million-dollar line item to convert biosolids into fertilizer for local agriculture. So the city is already gearing up to, they haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, it's in the plans. And with this facility, it would offer another option for the city of Arcadia. And that's just one example, but it would offer another option. And that's not to mention the operational costs of a multi-million-dollar machine and the replacement costs eventually, 10, 15 years down the road. You have to take it out and put another one in. We want to basically cultivate a relationship with the local community to handle propose a nutrient recovery system for the benefit of agriculture and to save the taxpayers money. We've done it before, and we stand behind that. And Mr. Hollingsworth does too. We understand the value of local, and local issues can be solved locally. And if you've got a local resource that's going in a landfill, we like to offer a local solution to huge savings. And that's something that is out there. So
that's it.
John, if you're getting close to the end of your presentation, we probably would like to have an opportunity to ask some questions of your team. And now, I didn't record exactly who does what on your team, so if the board has questions for some of your team on the application, we might just leave it to y'all to send the right person up who knows how to answer them.
Sure. So,
and then we've got a lot of public comment cards.
Yeah.
I guess so. We could start with Dan Hayes, the engineer, and then Cole Brewer to explain what you guys need. If you have any more questions for me, or you can call me back.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir.
To Dan.
Do y'all have any questions for John before he gives it away to somebody?
No, sir, not at this time.
If you would just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Dan Hayes, 1031 Terrace Boulevard, Orlando, Florida. Professional engineer registered in the state of Florida. I just want to be real quick on pointing out some of the facts that we wanted to address. And first of all, that the site is located outside the FEMA floodplain. I do have a So it is out of the floodplain, and we do not impact any wetlands. The site, like John mentioned, there is someone here that could testify that the fields were not flooded during Hurricane Ian. So the 32-acre site is going to be elevated about 4 to 5 feet above existing pasture grade. That will allow for us to have stormwater ponds that hold the 100-year storm. So that is above and beyond the requirements required under the state rules. So we do have permits from DEP for the processing plant, and we also have permit from DEP for the stormwater permitting, which is the same process as the Southwest Florida Water District, ERP permit. It's the same rules. We're above and beyond that, providing to hold the 100-year storm event on site. So we do also have an FDOT driveway access permitted, ready for construction.
I have a question for you on that, if
Sure,
you don't
sure.
mind, and if the board discusses more following, just lead it up. On the driveway permit, your application with the state, y'all brought up something that I don't think we discussed previously. There could be more additional mulch once the mulch that's there is used, coming in, from lot clearing and whatever else. Are those trips counted in what you guys gave the DOT for your trips per day? Like,
The additional trips for construction,
you
or
know, for bringing in additional mulch, like once the pile that's there is used up? Because we've talked about a pretty minimal amount of trips per day for the biosolids, and then most of the finished compost would be used on the site, I think, initially, but the idea that they're, you know, bringing more mulch later.
right?
I went to the driveway and it's pretty tight the way it is right now.
It's
just
gonna be
like
a lot
measure
bigger.
the people's houses from there, and so I was just thinking about that, the number of trucks, because if it is a close site, there will be a lot of trucks coming from Sarasota with, you know, lot clearing debris potentially to, so I didn't know if
That was not
calculated.
in the permit. We did the trips based on the number of employees and the number of trips based on the capacity of the plant, the number of trucks per day. So we did not, I don't think anyone ever brought that up, so I'm sorry I can't answer that.
Yeah, no, there's a certain amount of mulch that's already there, but once that's gone, you gotta bring it from somewhere else, that's all I was wondering.
Yes. I can say that the weight of the biosolids is a lot more, so it probably would be a smaller amount of compost, or not compost, the chips. There'd be a smaller amount of trips with the wood chips.
Thank you. Did y'all have any questions while we're tapping this here?
Mr. Chair, I do, just on the discharge of wastewater, so once those ponds are full, there is no, outfall structure that leaves there. What would happen with that?
There's a bleeder, which is just to help with recovery, but it doesn't, there's no outfall structure that spills over in a pipe going into the creek.
Okay.
There would be a bleeder that just bleeds to the ground and soaks in the ground, but that's just part of the recovery process that's required under the code.
Okay, so there is no outfall structure. It's, the ponds are not lined, so, you know, if the ponds were to reach max capacity at a storm, say it's a 100-year storm, we've seen a 100-year and we've seen a 500-year here in the last 7 years. So if it reaches that level, what happens with that material in those ponds?
Most of the water soaks into the ground.
But if the ground is already saturated, where does that water go?
There's a bleeder that would just take it outside the berm of the pond.
Okay.
But, I mean, the discharge is far less than the pre-existing condition. I mean, we're far beyond the pre-post requirements of the permit. So it's minimal amount, so once, I can't get into the numbers because I don't remember, but it would bleed down a little bit, and then the rest would remain in the pond and soak into the ground.
Okay.
And it's just, instead of the 24 hour storm, we're doing the 100-year storm.
Okay, sir. I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Questions at the moment?
Mr. Chair, I don't know if the question should be directed to you or not, with your expertise. At max operation, what would the estimated number of trucks, whether it be for the biosolids or the mulch material, be on a busy day? I didn't see that in here. Do we have an estimate
I think
of that?
each phase was approximately 10. Yeah, the mulch is on site now, but I guess in the future, I haven't calculated mulch.
Once that mulch is utilized, I'm just curious, once that's
But
utilized
just the
on
biosolids
other
is-
plants.
Do you have any trucks in your files?
What would happen is,
We'll have to ask whoever is answering to come up to the dial, sorry.
He can answer to that, he's the compost operator.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll hold that when you get a chance to come up, if that's okay with you?
that's fine, thank you.
Okay. Do you already have an ERP
Yes,
for it?
yes.
And I was, wanting to understand a little bit more the hard surface. And, how much of the site is hard surfaced and, why and what is the hard surface for?
I have a plan here if you wanted to show it.
But I just was wanting to kind of understand if the hard surface was kind of containing anything that, rain falls on the windrows. What's the purpose of the hard surface?
The hard surface is for the drying area, and then we'll have long covered buildings with the windrows under it. And then in the open area, it's fixing and forming rows and getting it into the operation, which Tom could probably elaborate on. Once we kind of shrink the material using the sun and get it in the windrows and get it formed under the covered areas. And so some of it is out in the open, most of the windrow is under the covers. And a lot of the facilities don't have any cover. We kind of choose that, is how we like to operate, so it's not required to be covered, but we're doing that.
I think you might be the guy who can answer, the engineer. The biggest thing that strikes me that I wanna understand is, like, on the drone video, that Osceola Organic showed, it shows a nice tight operation there with a few windrows. They go out one end of the barn and they extend beyond the barn, but it's pretty neat, and I've gotten pretty close to, that small scenario, and it's, just kind of a smaller footprint. But I've also been to, another operation that isn't owned by them, that is doing the same thing, but, there's 50 or 75 acres of windrows, and, it's massive, and you can't get really near that one without really wanting to leave the area. It smells terrible. So I'm trying to really understand what we're looking at here, because this is a large piece of acreage, and the drone video shows something really small that looks very manageable, and what I saw looks like it would not be a big impact. I've also seen, if there's a big demand or something like that, I mean, it can be 100 times larger, and I don't know what we're really looking at here. It seems.
Well, the Osceola plan is actually permitted for 2 more phases. The first, obviously it's personally financed, so they built 1 row, and then they built the second one, and they're, contemplating the enlargement of that facility too. This one is a little bit larger. That one would have 4 phases. This has 5.
So I think that's one of the important things for me to understand is, like, what size is it, and what size is it in terms of volume? Because a certain volume of compost, I bought a bunch from a different company and spread it with myself, like, got the dust on me and everything, and it's stinky, but a couple days later it goes away when you're spreading on the pasture. grows grass really, really good. But I would have to say it's a huge key factor on how much is gonna be stored there. Like, I know there's 32 acres, within the 400 something acres, but I think that's one of the most important things is there gonna be, you know,
I think I can attest that there will be no future expansions on it. And also, your stuff that you got out of the bag has been locked up in the bag. too.
no, it was, no.
Okay, well, I was assuming, if you
Yeah.
buy it at Home Depot and it comes in
No.
a bag and you open it.
I bought a
it's
big
got
spreader
yours.
for behind my tractor and put it in with a loader.
Okay.
All that. And as far as it goes, I mean, it grows grass really good. But, I think it's really key, like how much of it is there, because if it's a lot, it really smells
You can have
terrible. I know. huge.
Like John said, we've learned over the years, there's some plants that stink more than others. He's turned down City of Orlando Iron Bridge, he will not take their stuff because it stinks. They don't process it properly, it goes through too fast. Tom can also elaborate on that. That's all I can say is we had some odor complaints in Lake County way back when we first opened, and we stopped taking the stinky stuff and he'll turn them away. There's plenty of people that have good stuff. I guess they could talk more about that.
Yeah, I think really, probably the root of the question that I would have is just what is the ask for, you know, the number of windrows, because the drone video that shows a couple of windrows in a nice covered building is really nice. Looking at a small operation like that is pretty minimal, invasive. Looking at something that's got 32 acres full of windrows that are not in the barn, that's just, I don't know what we're actually
Right,
looking at.
well, I mean, the barns are open air, so they're not enclosed. The windrows in Osceola County are 400 feet long, and there's, I guess they get 2, maybe 3 windrows, and they can attest, Josh, to the rest of that.
You're asking the question.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's maybe 2, maybe 3 windows 400 feet long, and we're proposing 5 of those pads plus the drying area. So,
Well,
that's the amount.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
Mr. Chair, just to follow up on that, the 32 acres, essentially, that is the full footprint. There is no further expansion beyond that 32 acres.
Correct.
On that 400 and some acres.
Yes.
And the barns that I did witness in Kingsville are open air barns, plastic, clear see-through roofing to allow sunlight to get in. And it was a clean facility as far as that point. Windrows were very tight, you know, so I think the other part of that, your question is how big is this gonna be? Because there's opportunity to expand those buildings. I think there's 4 buildings set to be at this particular site or structures with multiple windrows in there.
5.
5, okay. Yeah,
That'll be probably phased over time as we can afford to expand.
okay. I think we can get some more operational context, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else before we call the next man to the plate?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. We appreciate your help.
I got one.
Oh, ma'am?
I got a question about when.
Oh, it's not. Thanks. There's not that. When you're ready. Yes, sir, give us your name and address for the record.
Yes, folks, my name is Tom Odermatt with Auto Consulting, and I'm from Lake Wales, 858 Hunt Circle. I've worked with John off and on for 20-some years. I've been in the business since, before this was really a business. We kind of developed some processes back before there was even a Class A, Class AA. So I've been doing this since the 80s, and I probably treated a couple million tons here in Florida over my decades of work, it seems. And I have never had any problems. I'm proud to say that we're able to save all those nutrients to get it back to agriculture. So, you know, I'm pretty proud of all that. that we will have to start cutting yard waste, because that would mean that there's not gonna be any hurricanes for a while. So we're hoping that happens. This is all blended by volume. So you see those 100-yard trucks that haul that yard waste, like they're garbage hauler trucks, the big ones. One of those trucks will process 3 to 5 truckloads of biosolids. So the traffic from the yard waste would be very minimal, if at all we needed it, which I hope we would have to start buying some. So, we're not looking at an increase of big amount of traffic at all. I mean, that'll be figured right into what we have for our truck traffic per day. Now, I want to cover the difference in operation. I know where you're at. You're at Venus, Florida, and that's, if you looked at that site, that would answer your question, why we use asphalt. And I know them very well. I was involved with that, with the people when they were planning to build that, and I told them, hey, you guys should really put asphalt down, and but you saw what it was like. And they also use a different process. What they do an MSAT process. So they just stick this stuff in huge windrows and just let it rot. That's all they do. And then after 30, 45 days, they'll pick it up and move it and blend it, and then it'll sit for another 40 days to cure out. So in our operation, we run equipment and aerate every 3 days. It could be 2 days. And that equipment means we have to build those windrows like y'all saw out there. We can only go 18 foot wide with the windrow and about 8 to 10 foot high, because the equipment we use to stir that up, to blend it and help cure it, has to fit down those rows. And that's why we have such a large asphalt space, so that we can get in and out with the equipment. And that's one thing, like John said before, we go above and beyond. We didn't have to put down asphalt, but hey, it's the right thing to do. So that's like I say, that's one of the reasons there, and why they have such big windrows all over the place down there, because they're just sitting. They're not being manipulated. So yeah, I'm here for any operational questions else what you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Tom?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If I remember correctly, there is probes that is put down
Yes, ma'am.
in the roads, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Those are to make sure the regulation of the heat
Yes,
properly?
absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's within our process, it's a natural occurring process when you add the two together, you create heat. And also, it regulates, those temperatures will regulate when you should turn your piles. If it starts to go down, you want to turn it a little bit to get it back up. And we have to keep that material at 131 degrees for 14 days. And within that 14 days, that 131 degrees will actually kill all the pathogens, all the bad guys. It will also remove any issues with vector traction, and that's the ability for it to draw flies. So all that's removed, and that's a basic requirement for compost. Once we achieve the 14 days at that temperature, then it can actually be land applied, but we like to let it sit for just a little longer and let it cure out a little bit. But that's the whole idea behind that.
Okay, well,
And those rheostat temperatures, by the way, I'm sorry, let me elaborate on that too. They actually are hooked up to the cloud. So that everybody in our organization, we have a Class A operator, wastewater treatment operator, which we're not required to have. I have a composting license, a nationally certified composting license, which is what's required to run a facility this size. And so does Josh, and so does Jason. So we've got more than the overqualified. Listen, we all get all the records of the temperature, and we know what's ready to go and what's ready not to. So, yeah.
well, also, if I remember correctly, the gauges from those piles goes to a solar panel.
Yes,
At the solar panel, then it goes to a tower.
yes,
And that tower can be monitored 24/7.
yep, yep. Absolutely. Everybody's got access to that. And that's well above and beyond too, because most of the time, you know, even the last facility I ran before I hooked up with John, I just stick the old compost thermometer in, go down the road, you know. But, yeah, it's all top-notch stuff.
Okay, and I know that both places that I went had that.
Yes, yes, and this place will too. This place.
Well, I'm riding around.
I'm glad you noticed that.
I noticed a lot.
There you go.
I'm done.
Okay. But just to let you know real quick, I did email you guys a couple different articles, and I just like to turn this in to make sure y'all got them. This is a letter of support from me, and, also this is a letter from University of Florida Institute of Agricultural Sciences, and Dr. George O'Connor and Maria, who's done work with for many years. They've done reams of research on biosolids, and that's one thing that I can honestly say, and why it's really hard for people when you get to see the science. We are probably the most regulated industry that you'll ever see go on a farm. They don't regulate chicken manure, they don't regulate this, they don't regulate that. But by gosh, I'll tell you what, they know exactly what's in every pound of our material, because that's just, we're under that much scrutiny. So, thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up because that was another part that I probably said later.
Okay.
Because if I remember correctly, the university is in Thornton.
Yes.
They check you anytime.
Mr. Langford? Yes, sir. On your windrows, approximately how many loads of biosolids is in each windrow?
It depends, of course, on the length. A typical truckload of material will start out taking up a length of windrow, say 10 feet long by 12, 14 foot wide by 8 foot high. Within about 2 weeks, it's half that size. So it settles down, it dries up. And that's another question you guys had about some water runoff and everything like that. Even though we keep our buildings covered for operational control, a lot of places don't, and water is usually not a problem unless it's just like huge belly washer. Because boy, this compost gets it gets up to 160 degrees. And that rainwater hits it, it just, there's not a lot of runoff in compost operation.
Well, I didn't get the answer I wanted on that. I was wondering roughly how many loads of biosolids it takes to make a windrow under the barn.
Well, if you have a 400-foot barn, which we do in Osceola, you figure that's 40 truckloads, one row.
Okay, 40 truckloads.
Yeah.
And then out of that 40 truckloads, how many loads of mulch do you mix with that?
It's going to be mixed 2 to 1, 1 to 1, 3 to 1. It all depends on the quality of how well they dewatered the biosolids. Yes, because sometimes it'll come in, they'll run it through the presses a little quicker, it comes in a little wetter, that makes a big difference. But it's typically, and once you get to a full operation, your yard waste, you have to remember, we like to use the hardwoods, a lot of the hardwood stuff out there. And that stuff, we'll reuse that maybe 8 times, because it goes through the screen, and that goes into our overspile. And then that goes from there back into the windows. So we recycle a lot of that wood. It's completely gone.
You reuse your overs?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What about, how much biosolids do you stockpile any biosolids? I'm sure you probably do.
We like to.
Okay.
It's important to, for operational on the outgoing end. In the case here, we're gonna have to have a pile to market out of. We'll have to have a pile for people to, that's ready to go. We can load trucks. If I know I'm gonna have 10 trucks coming in tomorrow to take material, I will have 10 trucks ready to go.
Okay, but you're talking about treated stuff.
Yes.
I'm talking about untreated that comes in.
Okay,
your biosolids, whatever y'all wanna call it,
okay.
that comes in, your stuff that comes in that's not in the windrows yet, how much of that do you store on site?
Oh, very little.
So
Very
that you
little.
got
Yeah,
there.
very little. We have a tipping pit, and that's cleaned up every day. I mean, we got to get that in the windrows right away. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. It's in a concrete pit.
It's in a concrete pit?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Nothing makes contact with the ground, and that's another reason why I put asphalt down. You know, I mean, not only that, I mean, if you guys, any of you guys run farm equipment over damp shell, you know, it's not gonna be long till you're starting that all over.
Okay, so how many windrows per barn roughly?
I
Three?
think you figured that, I don't know on
Ours is a little bit bigger, they're about more, depending on the size of our machine.
4 to 5 windrows. per
4 to 5
barn.
windrows per barn?
Yep.
And you're gonna have how many barns?
We're gonna start out with 1, right?
I got that, but what we're gonna max out at?
If we max out at 5.
5 barns? Okay. All right, thank you.
And you know, a lot of times too, if we max out our barns or buildings, and we don't have quite have to worry about a 14-day turnaround, we might leave that material sit there for, you know, another 15 days in that windrow until we have to move it. You know, it gives it a little more time to cure and everything, and break down a little more before you gotta run through that screen. You know.
Yeah. Well, once you run it through the screener, and get your actual usable material to spread, how long is that material? Do y'all keep that material a little bit longer once you get done screening it, or? Does it
No,
leave
we
immediately?
try to screen on demand, simply because it's fluffier, and that way when the spreader guy comes, you know, it can go right out the back, you don't have any problems. Because, you know, this kind of stuff, you want to be able to utilize in standard equipment.
So you're telling me that it remains under the barn until you have a need for it?
No.
Once it's windrowed? No.
No,
So
we
you
can
take
move,
windrow-
yeah, we
you
can
take-
move it out from under the barn. We're gonna
Okay.
probably have a pad somewhere, but we can, once it's treated, it's fine. The only thing is, we like to see it cure a little longer, just.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So once it comes out from under the barn and goes to the pad, how long does it stay there basically?
Probably,
before you
we
screen it?
have 15 days, 20 days.
15 days?
Yeah.
So you're looking at basically from the start of the windrow to the finished product being screened and leaving, you're looking at roughly 30 days?
Nah, it's a little longer than that, because it takes you a few days to heat that pile up, okay? And so, you know, you're looking, I'd say realistically, from the time that stuff hits, to the time it can be shipped out, you're looking at 45, even 60. The longer you can let it sit, the better it is, really, more mature.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So you probably have a finished product pile that would be a few acres. I mean, I think, so you could load trucks while you're waiting on more to get ready.
Yeah, it wouldn't,
I'm not trying
yeah.
to pin you.
No, it wouldn't be that big, no.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's one of the things that's gonna be nice about what we're doing, and this is why I'm so excited about this process, okay? Because I've done a bunch of these places, and it seems like I get put into a little area, I gotta make everything there, then it's gotta get shipped out all over the dang place. Guess what? I don't have to do that, okay? Now we're staying completely green. Most of that stuff's gonna be used right there and right in the surrounding farm. So it's, you know, heck, I had a facility at Daytona Beach for 15 years. I was hauling stuff all the way over to the peanut guys, you know? So this is like a dream. This is the perfect situation for the environment. It really is.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I got a quick
Yes,
question. Just to clarify, so everything is on concrete, that when the
Asphalt.
biosolid.
Yeah, asphalt. Now,
Even underneath the.
we put concrete in the pad or the tipping box, and the reason we do that and not asphalt is because those trucks will come in, okay, and they want to get in, and we don't want to put water, we don't want to use any of that. We want it to come in, and that gives them a chance to back their truck up and kind of tailgate it, you know, where it pops it all out.
With the biosolid.
Yes, that's why we use concrete.
And then an asphalt underneath the.
Asphalt.
The barn structures.
Yes.
Correct. Does the end product, when you have it outside of the barns, once it's done, after so many days, does it ever go bad?
Oh, no.
You have to bring it in and retreat it?
No,
by chance?
never. It does not repopulate, no. And there's been tests done, you know, mold tests done. I used to make a product years ago, that we tested after a year and a half, and it was still, matter of fact, this material is actually so clean, and I'm not saying anybody's got dirty hands, but if you were to go get fecal coliform test on our material and grab it with your bare hands, you will actually raise the pattern, unless you used a lot of, you know, because it kills everything.
Yes, sir, and if the end product is out there for a few days or whatever, it's on asphalt as well.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt a thing. You can leave it sitting there for, heck, you could leave it sit there for 10 years.
And if we get these heavy rains that we have,
After
you
10,
get a lot of
after,
runoff,
listen, after 10 years, you would see all these vagrant seeds, you know, all these seeds come blow in there, and you would have a beautiful mound of whatever blew in there, and you dig into it, and it would smell like good earthy soil.
Do you have a bad issue with runoff if you get a really
No.
heavy rain?
No.
Okay, what about last year when we had that flood?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I got one more for you, and you know, we need to get, Mr. Cole Brewer up here to ask him about that property. But just, when already coming into our community from the east, we've got a couple of construction dumps that smell really, really bad. They look bad and they smell bad. Now we got the other gateway into our community. Is it gonna smell really, really bad when the wind's out of the north? And we got Pine Level Church is 12,000 feet south
The
of there.
facility?
Right.
No, it will not. It will not. I mean, for one thing, I mean, you can even take this jar and smell that jar of stuff. I mean, you know, we don't take stinky stuff to start with. So there's not gonna be a lot of stinky problems. And and to follow up on what he was talking about, I had contracts with Iron Bridge. I had contracts with the Orange County, all theirs. I had 18 to 25 loads of sludge a day that I had to find a home. And I'm working with John on the side with my consulting as well, and he will not bring it on. I lost the contract. So, because it's not, so he's serious about that, trust me. Oh, yeah, are you guys understanding?
I think, do y'all have anything else for Mr. John?
I do.
You do? Oh.
Wait, before you leave, I got a question.
Okay. Hold on one second.
If I remember correctly, there was also a conversation, I'm thinking, maybe in Osceola. If at some given point, and I'm not sure who told me this, whether it's Mr. John or the little girl behind him, but if they get their capacity, then they're done with whatever goes out and it has to wait until the next day or something? What was that? What was that conversation?
We do have a permitted capacity we have to stay to, but it's usually done by a month, so I don't know. It could be something relevant to the time, because, you know, I'm telling you, these truck drivers, they like coming in at any time they want coming in, and we won't have that, so.
Come on up. Yes, sir. You can come up to the dais there and give us your name and address.
My name is Rick Leon. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the United States Army. I work with the corporate engineers and the medical service, managing biosolids at different facilities. And I have also had the pleasure to deal with biosolids for over 32 years. In fact, my first presentation to a Board of County Commissioners was right here in 1996, just to give you an idea. So, to answer those questions, I'd like to clarify some things. First of all, you asked about wastewater. There is no wastewater. There is no wastewater at all. You asked whether the wastewater, if it was spilled.
He was talking about stormwater.
Stormwater. I'm sorry, I apologize. I have a hearing aid, so apologize if I say something else. Second thing, you did mention about what happens after the biosolids correction. The fertilizer is stored there for a certain amount of time. The state of Florida has a regulation 62640 that requires that after 30 days that product has to be resampled. Okay, just to give an idea. The state of Florida also requires us to check every month what the product is, how the product is being operated and processed. And it has to meet certain requirements, not only for time and temperature, but also pathogens, fecal coliform, metals, you name it. And those things have to be sampled every month by a certified lab that is completely independent from the facility. There was another comment that somebody made. Don't remember. But anyways, since I was in the military, let me say this. I'm going to speak for 5 minutes. Is that okay with you?
Yes, sir.
Can you please?
Thank you for your service.
First of all, composting is a naturally recurrent event. It happens every single day. When you go into your kitchen and you throw the banana peel, right? Or the orange
Oh,
peel.
if you could, just speak into the mic, we gotta get it on the record.
Okay, I apologize. I always try to
You just have to
go with the audience. Okay.
reach to us.
So when you throw the banana peel and all those things, you're composting actually. You are actually composting. Second of all, let me give you an idea. How many of you have ever gone to Animal Kingdom? Any one of you? Animal Kingdom used to be a composting facility for Disney. You guys know that? It was the biggest composting facility in the state. It was taken down not because of odor complaints or any issues, but because they needed to build Animal Kingdom, of course. That gives you an idea of how the process is treated. Composting is done always in an impervious area. That means that no composting, and I'm talking about composting, I'm not talking about biosolids, because in my view, when I speak about biosolids, it's when you talk about beer, but I call it yeast. The same thing. Biosolids is just a pass of it's just a portion of the composting process. But what we produce here is fertilizer. That happens to have a little bit of biosolids. So anyways, what I was saying is this product is heavily regulated. Secondly, it's a product that never touches the ground because it is an impervious area, okay? So it is completely safe in regards to that. Thirdly, the compost process in itself produces a product that allows you to literally put it anywhere without any issues. Class B biosolids. Class B biosolids are, in order for you to land apply Class B, you have to meet certain criteria. One of them is that it has to have no more than 2 million parts per number of coliform. It cannot have any more than that. Fertilizer, this composting process is required to have no more than 1,000 parts. You know what that is? It's a factor of, I don't know, it's huge. The difference is huge. So in that regard, this product is very, very safe. The third part that I wanted to address is 40 CFR, which is a regulation that addresses biosolids at the federal level, conducted about 40 years ago, 30 years ago, a study of any kind of risks that the different process posed for the humans. It took about 40 different risk assessments. If you drink it, if you touch it, if you smell it, what is it going to happen to you as a human being, right? Composting has the least amount, and in fact, biosolids have very, very chances of doing any damage to the human being. Of course, if you are exposed significantly, but I mean significantly, then you may have some issues. So in that regard, this product is extremely safe. What else did I want to say? That is pretty much it. If you guys need to ask any questions about environmentally treatment, environmental treatment of this process, I'm here for.
Thank you. Do you have any questions? We're kind of covering some of the same territory a couple times, try to get it moving here.
Now I remember. You were mentioning about storing, right? We don't want to store biosolids. Let me explain to you this. If we bring biosolids, we want to treat that as quickly as possible, because if we don't, we are losing the treatment process itself. We are, the nature of this process is to mix it so quickly that it starts producing the heat that is going to feed into the process. So if we leave it, we're losing that heat. I don't know if I made myself clear. So we try not to store anything, but if we have to, we will. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Cole, you would,
I just wanted to say one thing,
Yes, sir.
JC, in response to your question. I was never.
give us your name and address real quick.
Yeah, BC Hollingsworth, 8326 Northwest Pine Level Street. I would never do anything that would impair a smell for Pine Level Church. I am Pine Level Church. Okay?
I wasn't insinuating anything, I was simply
I
asking.
just wanted to make sure you.
Your guy on point there about what it meant to me.
I know what it means to me too.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Commissioners, good evening. Cole Brewer, 124 North Brevard Avenue. I represent BC Holdings LLC. I wanted to address Mosaic being removed as an applicant. I wasn't part of the application process, but it's my understanding because Mosaic owns a strip of property in between the north and south parcels of BCH Holdings, they wanted to be included, or they needed to be included, or at least show their consent. Since that time, Mosaic doesn't necessarily need to be part of this application process. The negotiations that have been had, it's not going to be considered an easement, but rather a license. It's lawyer semantics, but we don't want to overstep. What I've got up on the screen is, it just shows the access parcel. It's just traversing across their property. To my understanding, there's no objections from Mosaic, but having them as an applicant wasn't necessary. So they wanted to be removed.
If I'm not mistaken, you probably picked this out, but the red outline that we were looking at earlier was not the correct red outline that's being removed.
No, that was
Oh, the whole piece.
Yeah, so I don't know if y'all know.
It comes down, it comes down on the east side of it.
It's a strip.
There's a little tiny sliver that runs east and west on the north, in between the two parcels.
And
The
that's,
part that was outlined in that thing that we looked at earlier was a larger piece of property.
But it.
right, on the southeast side. On the southeast side, you can see where it's wider, and it runs north, and then it runs back to the west. They're crossing north and south across where it runs west. I don't know if I can. Their entire parcel is included, but that's because their little strip of land bisected BC's property.
Okay, I see. Yeah, it's a little easier to see on the blown up part.
That yellow one don't draw in, but you can see what I'm talking about, or what it's talking about.
Any questions on that? I think it's, I understand
That's just pretty cut dry there.
more than two ways to get across a little thin strip of land, I guess.
Yeah, but I just wanted to clarify, if y'all do approve with the condition, we'd appreciate license rather than easement requirement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for your help with that. Does the board have any other questions for any of our applicant representatives, or?
I don't have this time.
No, sir, not this time.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and get to the public comment. Thank y'all for bearing with us. On the dais, after I call the first speaker, you'll see that there'll be a yellow light when you have a minute left of your 5 minutes to speak. And at any time while there's people still speaking, if you've decided to speak, you'll just have to turn in a comment card and also take the oath if you didn't. So make sure you have an opportunity to do that. Just got a new card here. Has anybody in here turned in a card that didn't take the oath? Okay. Is there anybody else that knows they'd like to speak now? We can go ahead and administer the oath again. That way, we got everybody covered. Okay, good. Okay. Ms. Sylvia, when you get done with that, could we give the oath one more time, just make sure we got everybody?
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. We covered everybody again this first time. So we'll give you 5 minutes each, and like I said, there's a little warning light on the microphone a minute before the little buzzer goes off. If the buzzer goes off, you can wrap up your thought, as long as your thought isn't 5 minutes long. First we'll call Tracy Hopple, please.
My name is Tracy Hoffel, 2221 Northwest Myrtle Avenue in High Level. Real quick before I start, what is a windrow composed of? Can anybody tell me that? That might not matter to some of the things.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
what I witnessed was a windrow of material. It's a solid 8 foot, 10 foot wide by 8 foot high or less, depending on how long or how high its material is, but it's a solid one row.
Okay, so it's just to block the wind.
No, it's actually material, but it's put
Impervious
in a,
material?
it is the mulch and the biosolids mixed together in a windrow, essentially, that is underneath that building.
Okay. So it doesn't there's no concrete involved.
There's asphalt underneath it.
That keeps runoff from, is that to protect from water and runoff going into places, or just?
Well, it does. I think it protects the ground to an extent,
Okay,
but the runoff goes into their stormwater pond that I was asking the question about.
okay.
And it's self-contained.
I'm gonna run out of time, so let me get to it.
I paused you for visiting, I paused you.
Oh, thank you, thank you, Mandy. I know you all just wanted facts, and we've done our due diligence, and I hope that you've read a lot of the material that we've given you. Thank you for the ones that did meet with me, I appreciate that. Facts. EPA is in the process of banning forever chemicals and waste due to the dangers to health and the environment. Fact, property in question is surrounded by flood zones and also floods and heavy rains. Fact, many counties in Florida and other states are banning this practice due to health and environmental concerns. Research has been done to prove there are safe ways to remove these forever chemicals, heavy metals, and pathogens, which needs to be incorporated to every wastewater facility so as not to mobilize harmful waste through communities. Mr. Arnold was right, and I did my research. Milorganite and other soils made with biosolids, which, don't misunderstand, is also another name for sludge. That is proven. So yes, Milorganite and other soils made with biosolids have been taken off the shelf due to heavy metals, which Mr. Arnold's product will also still contain. The Peace River has been dubbed by the state as an impaired water body due to high nutrient content. This land does not need nutrient reclamation. It's already had previous years of heavy layered sludge. We've provided much information to the board as to the hazards of this material. Soon it will not be allowed. We want to be part of the solution, not the problem. Monitoring testing should have been done to lands and creeks prior to the resolution being drawn up. Did that happen? Mr. Arnold states they are in compliance with state and local regulations, yet the state requires 50 to 100 foot setback from creeks and much more for larger bodies of water. The county resolution he is proposing only has a 15-foot setback from a creek. How is this? Cows should not be grazing on any sludge-laid properties, ever. That repeats a horrible cycle of dangerous chemicals entering our bodies and the environment. A minimum of 25 trucks a day opens you up to no maximum, which will be taken advantage of. What will they do when they have too much to process? Where does the excess go? Are you requiring the resolution
Share
and
the
impervious
stream, guys.
remedies
Share
to
the
catch
stream.
runoff that will occur? That's why I asked about the windrows. Can you see how this could easily get out of hand? Since no one will be monitoring the number of trucks, this is when you'll start having unpermitted activity also. This is what happened last time. They're just following suit into our town. They will see us as an easy target for dumping. Who's going to know? This is when you'll start receiving complaints up to your neck. What about times of colder temperatures? Will he be able to always meet the AA standard required by DEP? But the trucks won't stop. In the past, we had eyes in the sky taking aerial photos where they literally just dump, not spread it, right on the edges of wetland grasses. Why not? No one is monitoring the activity. Once a year by DEP, once every 3 years by code enforcement. Really? Will there be an NMP, nutrient management plan? It's a state requirement. EPA also states objectionable odors are prohibited. We'll be violating that right away. State also requires any temporary storage and staging area to be limited to 7 days. Who's going to monitor this? Florida Statute 4003.0855, biosolids may not be applied on soils that have a seasonal high water table. As for the letter Mr. Hollingsworth personally delivered to an establishment because he didn't want us having a public meeting discussing this issue, that was illegal, and if charges were pressed, he could have served 2 years according to code law. He told the owner's daughter prior to leaving the unsigned letter on the door that he runs this town and would shut them down. The opposition has been involved in some shady activities since we were here last. Our group has not been malicious, it's been their group. Do you really trust they'd be concerned over county or state regulations? If it's true and he runs this town, why are we even here? Y'all are here to serve the public's best interests, not for any type of appeasement to a single landowner or his business dealings. In years past, a circuit judge called the activity that was happening here trespassing. That still stands. We have a right to clean water and clean air. The waters could heal themselves if they would be left alone to do so. Just say no. Also, I'd like to say those maps up there that were up there earlier kind of help our cause because they're absolutely showing the water right next to it. Thank you guys. I hope you make the right decision.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Next, I'd like to call Ms. Julie Morris.
Share the stream. Let's get more eyes on it.
Hi.
Good evening.
I'm Julie Morris, 35200 Clay Gully Road, Mayaca City, 34251. Hi everybody, I'm Julie Morris with Florida Conservation Group. I'm here to attest that I'm working with the Hollingsworth family on placing a conservation easement on the 8,000 acres adjacent to the proposed facility. Under this conservation easement, the land will never be developed and will remain as it is in perpetuity. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next, Ms. Heidi Minikine. Heidi, oh, there you go, sorry.
Right here.
I apologize if I didn't say your last name right.
Oh, that's okay. My name is Heidi Minikine. I live in Mayaca City off of Clay Gully Road. I do not live in Arcadia, but we think that we want to move to Arcadia. And I'm not a part of any of the groups. I don't know very many people here at all. I thought I'd come and speak on this matter. This proposed sludge, biosolid, you can put whatever name you want to it, it's still the same. When they raise up the land 4 feet, as we know, and then we put cement pads down and blacktop down, we now have nowhere for the water to drain. And as the gentleman over here showed the map, there's waterways all around this proposed site. So when we have heavy rains, everything's gonna run off. And then they said that they have the holding ponds. These ponds are gonna be filled with water. We know what happened in Manatee County with all the housing developments. These ponds are already filled with water. Where are they gonna drain to? They're gonna drain right into the water, into these creeks, streams. So anyways, raising the land isn't, it's still wet there and it just shows it there. The EPA has said that, it conducted and identified more than 350 pollutants in the sludge solids. It classifies 61 as hazardous and priority pollutants. So this is not clean, and when you spread it on the fields, and even if we don't spread it on the fields around here and we get a big storm and we get a lot of runoff, you're still gonna get all of these chemicals in the water, in the ground. It's not a safe thing, and I'm sure that they can expand their other facilities. I just don't think Arcadia, DeSoto County is really the county for it. And once these trucks start rolling in, where does it stop? There are gonna be a lot of trucks. There's no regulation on the trucks coming in and out. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next, I have a card for Duncan.
Hi there, hi everybody. My name's Duncan Pace. I live at 2992 Northwest County Road, just up first bunker there, just up from the campground. I am pro-business, I am pro-farmer, and I'm pro-Arcadia, I'm pro-DeSoto County. I don't take any pleasure. It feels awkward for me to come up here and try to interrupt anyone's business endeavors. If we're a roller rink or a pool or a bowling alley, everything everyone asks for in the town to have fun that everyone gets to play with, we'd be happy to have them as neighbors. Unfortunately, there's just a couple things I'm afraid of based on, personally, my location. When Ian hit, my family and my land was completely devastated. We were actually right up on the river, on the high side of the river, so we thought the river might come and take us, but it didn't. What happened was water came from this direction, shooting across the land against all odds, and kind of wiped us out. Now, if it was carrying with it all of these materials, well, happily defined or more detrimentally defined, I'll let you sort that out, but it would just basically destroy the small amount of property that is all we own and is our legacy and my family's legacy. So we're very, very afraid of that. Where we live is not in a flood zone either, and it flooded, and it came from there, which is not a flood zone. So, I met with these gentlemen, and they're fine people, and Mr. Hollingsworth is a fine man, he's a pillar of our community. Like I said, I don't want to interrupt what they're doing, but I am very scared based on some of the things that other people have expressed. A lot of it, your questions have been very good, and I really appreciate it, because a lot of the talk about how good what comes out is, and that has its own issues, and I'm open to everybody's opinion, and especially the farmers and such that seem very pro. But what's going to be there is what's brought in, which is inherently, they're proud of what goes out as clean. That means what the bad stuff that comes in, or the bad components that comes in there happily, that means they're there. And there's always going to be what's coming in at its worst state and what's being processed. That's going to be the constant state of this facility. It is working at best. And like I said, I'm mostly concerned with what happens when things are not working in ideal conditions. And so just to skip to, and not repeat what everyone else has said, if I had a preference, this place wouldn't happen. If it does happen, and in light of their pledges to be good neighbors and stuff, perhaps this I wrote it down so I could say it right. That could the commissioners perhaps require that the company post with the county a substantial relief fund that could be tapped immediately by anyone damaged in light of these situations? Because if damage does occur to nearby properties, the homeowner won't be able to afford the time or money to go to court and figure all that out. That might be something where we could meet in the middle a little bit, where they pledge to have stuff sitting there, and if everything goes as they said, it'll never need to be used. I'm sure there's other things I'd love to say, but you're probably going to hear from everyone else. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope that everyone can end up satisfied and happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Johnny. Just to make sure I know, you live near the Peace River Campground?
Yes, sir, just up from it, basically where the hill crests,
Just past where the bridge went underwater?
yes, the bridge went, and we're a little bit up from there, and, it's just bad luck, and, this is one thing I learned being very affected by the flood is, and it's almost a bit biblical, but flood, to me, I learned was not just rising water. Flood means that which you cannot expect. It's the thing you cannot prepare for. So in light of that, we should do our best to try to set ourselves up so that everything works great, and if it doesn't work great, that everyone comes out okay.
Yes, sir, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Hollenhorst.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Houndhorst, 9347 Southwest Raccoon Trail. I live in Hidden Acres, and I also have a master's degree in environmental biology. I have several concerns. One is the destination of the biosolids. Previously, when it was sludge that was spread, it was heavy, visibly, chokingly heavy, and near Horse Creek. If it was spread at the same level, it would threaten to contaminate our water resource of the Peace River, feed red and toxic green algae in the Charlotte Harbor National Estuary. Okay, another concern is in the curing phase, and of course the spreading, biosolids have been shown to typically have high levels of microplastics and PFAS, forever chemicals, which are linked to cancer and developmental delays. Microplastics don't adhere to the soil, but toxic chemicals adhere to them. The dust that blows off of biosolids and treated soil, UCLA researchers have found little soil in it. It consists of microplastics that, carried by the wind, can be inhaled and, in this case, carried in our water resources also, and may be linked to health risks. But microplastics significantly, they've been found, impact marine life, disrupting the food chain at various levels, and this is not a perfect situation for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure, I have a card for Mr. Cole Brewer, but did you have a personal comment too, or just the one you made? Okay, thank you. Norman Kennedy.
Norman Kennedy, 2846 Southwest Brewer Avenue, Arcadia, Florida. I had papers, but the young man actually had a point. I'm probiotic, and I'm for Mr. Hollingsworth doing this. But for a safety measure, it was pretty actually ingenious to have an account to where something does catastrophically happen, we can help cover our people. But I'm for it. I mean, it's the future, it's here. We're gonna have to get with it. We can go out there, we can do this as a community. We don't have to hate everything new. We're old enough to where we're not kids, we can handle this maturely. We can do this as a community. And the guys, that's incredible. If they could be willing to do that too. And I would love, when they get it going, to go do a tour. I would love to see how that is. And if some of the people could take samples and they want to send it off, get it checked, I think we should go for it. It's going to be scary, no doubt. Everything new is. But the benefits would help us all. And our farmers, we don't have any left. We turn our backs, we're housing development. You're looking at over 100,000 acres or homes just on his property. Arcadia's history. We need to stand behind him. But we do it smart. And y'all can come back and check yearly, put a clause in there where we can make sure everything's to the line. That way, if nobody don't trust him, we trust y'all. I'm a new Republican. I got rid of the Democrat, sorry. My party. But I say we go for it. And with the insurance on the side, they would be willing to do it. You know, let's take this step together. And if it works out great, then great. Nothing's ever guaranteed. But you don't know if you don't try. Things were bad in the past. That's 20 years ago. Our technology has far surpassed that. I mean, at the dump, I accidentally walked in it. And I was like, what is that? I thought it was cotton salt. I almost fell in it. They're laughing at me. They're like, no, that's dumb. You know, that's human waste. But it had no smell. I thought it was just cotton soil. So I'm like, okay. I didn't want that wrench after all. So, but it's really, it's scary to make the step into the future, but it's going to come for us whether we're ready or not. So I say we get behind our farmers, Mr. Hollingsworth, all the others. You know, let's stand with the farmers instead of stomping them in the ground, trying to kill their businesses. Everybody screams at y'all for the houses coming in. Quit bashing the farmers and putting them out, and you won't have houses coming in. You know, it's scary, but we can do it as a community, and we can try to hold on to our town for as long as we can. But in time, we all know we're going to be run over by Port Charlotte, Sarasota, Bradenton. It's coming. But if we support our farmers, we can hold on to our way of life for a little longer. I mean, people can hate me. I don't care. I just think it's a good step in the right direction. Less phosphates running into the river. Get enough of that going. Won't be much need for mosaic, so the community won't be a gigantic pothole. I mean, there's good things, but I say let's take that step together and see how it comes out. Life has no guarantees. I could die in a car wreck tonight. Doesn't mean I'm not going to be willing to make the jump to Mr. VC or anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a beautiful night.
Appreciate your perspective, Mr. Kennedy. All right, next I've got, looks like Bob Marley. Mr. Bob Marley, come on down.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for all of your time. You know, I've come a couple times here, and I do love to talk to everybody here. I love hearing your interaction. And I want to compliment on, there was one person in town that I always wanted to see and talk to.
Your name and address,
Oh,
real quick, so.
Kenny Galt, 6227 Southwest Smith, Arcadia, but I'm really not kidding. And so I see these people in DeSoto County, and I always wanted to stop them. And it's always been on a busy road. But last week, they were on Smith. I'm down at the end of Smith, which is down at the end dead end, over a little wood bridge. And what it was a gator crew. And this guy looked like Bob Marley. And what he was doing was picking up the trash on the side of the road. And I stopped my car and I said, hey, I got to talk to him. Because I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing. You know, our streets are trashed out there. And after last weekend, they really are. But you know what he said to me? He said, thank you. Nobody's ever stopped me before. And you wouldn't believe how many people just throw stuff out their window. And I can take pictures of it. So, you know, we got some people at really low levels that are doing some work out there and treating this place really nice. And I know we want to make this place great. Anyway, I'm representing tonight Healar Harbor. I'm an ambassador for Healar Harbor. And this was an 8-week class, 8 hours a day, underwritten by the Charlotte County. And it was all about how to protect the water of Charlotte Harbor. Because it used to be clean and beautiful. There used to be so much grass down there. It used to look like a shag rock. And when I got down there, I said, I'm from Nocatee. You know, where's Nocatee? And I said, no, we're up on the Peace River. And I believe that we have to clean up the Peace River in order to clean up the harbor. And so that's how I got involved in Peace River and the Healar Harbor. So maybe a week and a half ago, we had a meeting of the class. And it was the first time that the Healar Harbor and the people for the protection of the Peace River got together as an alliance because these two groups are recognizing how they are so interrelated. But I want to go a step further. The water is related to the land. And this is, everybody's talking about the land. And you guys know this land better than I do. You have felt it for years. And I'm learning how to fish, and I have a farmer. I have a fisherman who's teaching me. He's been fishing here for 40 years as a professional fisherman. And I had him down at the harbor last weekend, and I said, oh, you know, the Peace River, it's dying. And he said, no, it's not dying. He said, it's dead. It's dead. I said, so I'm gonna use it tonight that the Peace River is really dead, and it's up to us to revitalize it. So let's work on it. Now, in reference to our petitioner, and you've heard this before, you guys got a tough decision to make. In regards to the petitioner, it may seem right until it is not. I think that's just what the last man said. And lots of people have talked about different things, and I have said this once before. You talked about smell. He said, guess what? When we have odor and heat, it's going to create smell. The most important thing I see is precedent. You allow it here, can we have it in Nocatee? Can we have it in Fort Ogden? What's the cost benefit to the county? Is there any? Are you just going to get the truck traffic, the traffic, and then impact? But I'll say one more thing. How might the impact of any land use you do affect the water quality of the Peace River watershed? And that's what I've heard a lot about. And I don't know the answer. You guys know it better than I. You have said boots on the ground, and that's what you are. I don't care about the state of Florida. I don't care about these engineers. You guys know better than all these others. So that's my comment. This is a tough one, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gall. All right, next, David Moore. You're passed, okay. Ms. Kim. Let's boss talk.
Kim Moore, 2039 Northwest LD, and I have been sworn in. The title of this is Class A Biosolids Composting. Not everything that sounds good is good. So as we did on March 25th, we're all here tonight to further discuss the topic, and we definitely discussed it ad nauseum. And to the safe solution of waste management as well as agricultural use in our community. Class A biosolids composting, while this process is marketed as high quality, safe product, I believe it's essential to critically examine the potential risks and drawbacks associated with it. To be honest with you, I've been told by several people that coming in front of the board was a waste of time because your minds have already been made up. But I'm placing my appeal before you anyways and trusting that in spite of all the recent rhetoric, you will first look at the evidence presented and that the decisions that are made on this subject and the special exception required for zoning will be made in the best interest of Desoto County. So as we have already heard, biosolid compost are treated sewage sludge that has undergone rigorous processing to meet specific standards, supposedly making them safe for use in landscaping and agriculture. However, the very nature of biosolids originating from human waste raises significant concerns that cannot be overlooked. One of the primary issues with biosolid composting is the potential health risks. Despite the treatment of processes designed to reduce pathogens, there is no guarantee that all harmful microorganisms are eliminated. Pathogens such as bacteria, viruses, and fungi can still be present, posing a risk to human health, especially for vulnerable populations like children and the elderly. Moreover, Class A biosolids can still contain chemical contaminants, including heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, and personal care products, as well as microplastics, which have begun to be a serious issue for the environment. The PFAS are a group of man-made chemicals used in various products like non-stick cookware, stain-resistant fabrics, and firefighting foams, and can also be found in biosolid compost. Some of them have been linked to adverse health effects. These substances can accumulate in the soil and ultimately enter our food chain. Imagine consuming fruits and vegetables grown in soil treated with compost that contains traces of medications or toxic metals. Or imagine, we're big steak eaters in this community because we have a lot of cows, eating a very nice thick steak and unknowingly eating the possibility of being contaminated with toxic metals that gradually accumulated in the soil of pastures that the compost is spread on. This is not just a theoretical concern. Studies have shown that these contaminants can persist in the environment, raising serious questions about the safety of using any biosolids, including Class A. Next, let's consider the environmental implications. As I just stated, the application of Class A biosolid compost can lead to soil contamination, affecting not only the crops we grow, but also the broader ecosystem. When it rains, especially these heavy flooding rains in Florida, the runoff from fields treated with biosolids can contaminate local waterways. So we need to ask ourselves, you, our representatives, need to ask yourself, is it worth the risk? Is it worth the potential for possible environmental degradation of the Peace River and contributing waterways? The gamble is a heavy price to pay for a practice that is often touted as environmentally friendly, but has been scientifically proven to be otherwise. Another critical point to consider is the regulatory landscape. While Class A biosolids are subject to certain standards, regulations governing biosolids composting can vary significantly from one region to another, leading to inconsistent safety standards. This inconsistency can create loopholes that may allow for unsafe practices to go unchecked. Osceola Organics has assured the board that they adhere to strict regulations and oversight, and that there is zero chance of any product getting into the ground or waterways near the facility. But I beg to differ. We are an agricultural community in the state of Florida that is quite aware of how much of a mess dump trucks coming and going can make. While dumping their loads, they have a way of dragging some of the material away with them on their tires. While gravel and shell are not much of a concern in this matter, biosolids, no matter what stage of composting it's in, would definitely be concerning. Add that to the sudden deluge of rain showers that Florida gets. We all know about how Florida, you can get 3 inches in 5 minutes. Whether it's treated or untreated, the product has the potential to run off into our waterways. So there are alternatives. I'm going to skip that because I'm almost out of time. But in conclusion, while Class A biosolids composting may seem like a viable solution to waste management and a logical benefit for our farmers and ranchers, the potential health risks, environmental impacts, public distrust, and regulatory challenges cannot be overlooked. We must advocate for safer, more sustainable practices and protect our health and the environment. I'm green. Can I keep going?
Can I relinquish my time to her?
Sure. We've got more than an hour.
I have one paragraph. Okay, so not everything that sounds good is good, as I stated to begin with. We must ask ourselves if the benefits outweigh the risks. Do the benefits affect the entire community for the better, or do only a few gain profit from it? Is this something that will benefit our community for generations to come? Or will we regret the decision to allow it to the dismay of future generations? So let's work together to keep our environment and waterways safe, our families healthy, and our community something to be proud of. We're already fighting enough battles to keep our community and waterways safe. Do we really need to add another concern?
Thank you, Ms. Kemp. All right, next I'd like to call Mr. James Ammon. Thank you for being patient and give us your name and address for the record, please.
James Amon, 2366 Northwest Elding Road. I've been here before. You guys heard my concern about health issues. I did talk to Mr. Arnold in BC after the last meeting. Mr. Arnold assured me that his product doesn't contain the items that got me so sick. A couple of you guys know all about that stuff. I was running spreaders. I got deathly ill. Okay? That's neither here nor there. I want to put an end to all this Facebook garbage. This is like an ongoing war between both sides with a lot of insults and a lot of bogus stuff. You know, why it's got to be keep brought up, I don't know. The other thing is I personally called EPA in Washington, D.C. concerning this. I called EPA here in Florida concerning this. They do not do anything preventative. But what they do is, once there is a spill, once there is a seepage, once there is a problem, they will go after all parties involved. This is how it was explained to me by the lady from Florida Department of Environmental Protection. So like the gentleman stated earlier, there's got to be a safeguard here. Because if you guys pass this, who's going to protect the people if these situations happen? There got to be a bond put up. You know, I'd hate to be, I mean, I know other counties are now suing their commissioners. I hate to see you guys lose out on this. Not saying that's what's going to happen. I might be misunderstanding the lady from DEP, I don't know. But that's the way she explained it to me, okay? Because I wanted to know if there was something preventative. They don't do anything preventative. They have established regulations, which is strictly voluntarily to abide by, okay? They're not gonna do nothing until this thing's full run. Then they'll do their tests. Other than that, that's about all I got to say. You know, I'm no expert, but I made the phone calls because I needed to know. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Amon. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Coming and your time, Amon. I'll get that right. I should have it by now, but appreciate you putting the time in there and coming to speak to us. Miss Teresa Collins Hill. Mrs. Teresa Collins Hill.
Yeah.
Good evening, Teresa Collins Hill, 1423 Southeast County Road 760A. Surprise, I have questions. Last month, my questions, comments, and math were called offensive and fear-mongering tactics. That was not my intent. However, facts remain that biosolids are derived from human fecal material, and they can be up to 80% liquid. Sierra Club environmentalist Nancy Rain calls it the most polluted, rich, man-made substance on Earth. They have shown that spreading pollutant-filled biosolids on farmland is making people sick, contaminating drinking water, and filling crops, livestock, and humans with everything from pharmaceuticals to PFAS. This human waste has been further contaminated with any number of 80,000 man-made chemicals that are discharged from industries, pipes, or otherwise pumped into the sewer system. Previously, treatment facilities burned the sludge or dumped it into the ocean, but the federal government barred the practices because doing so violated clean air rules or created marine dead zones. The EPA now insists that spreading the same toxic substance on farmland is safe. A University of North Carolina study found that 75% of people living near farms that spread biosolids experienced health issues like burning eyes, nausea, vomiting, boils and rashes, while others have contracted MRSA. Sludge killed cows in Georgia, and biosolids have been blamed for toxic algae blooms in the Great Lakes and in Florida. Sewage sludge is behind a widening PFAS crisis that has contaminated farms in Maine, Michigan, Wisconsin, Alabama, and Florida. Officials have refused to test milk from dairy cows in Michigan as they don't want to put farmers out of business. While my math was questioned last month, I have now revised my figures based on 6 days a week versus the 5 days a week I previously used. So with this new information, my calculations show 25 loads per day and 6 days a week equals 150 trucks per week times 52 weeks, which is 7,800 trucks. And an 18-wheeler carries approximately 22 tons, which is 44,000 pounds per truck. That's over 343 million pounds of human fecal biosolids per year. And this figure does not include the trucks and tonnage needed for the mulch, grain debris, nor the necessary equine or bovine manure that is mixed in with the biosolids. So question, if my numbers are wrong, does the county have an accurate number of how much material will be shipped in from all across the state? So far it seems like the answer is no. This special exception permit has no end date and minimal, if any, oversight. Question, while we do hope that the BOCC's field trip to the other facilities were informative, do you, really think that the same practices that are followed at a tourist attraction with over 200,000 visitors will be done at an isolated site a mile down a private road? This proposed site will be located on 414 acres of leased land. If you grant this special exception, you are setting the precedent for other human waste biosolid facilities in the county. A prominent family owns hundreds, actually thousands, of agricultural acres on Rowan. Question: can we expect to have a biosolids tourist attraction next to the rodeo grounds and Turner Center? It has been established that there will be zero tax revenue generated from this facility, and there will be no local permanent jobs created. The benefit to the citizens will be that the county will save money on the dump fees it currently pays for our sludge disposal. Questions: the fees to load and transport the waste will remain the same. So, how much taxpayer money will this save? What is the price that you have determined is worth potential health risks to the Pine Level community, to the health of our waterways, and to our river? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll call Ms. Vicki Steiner. Good evening.
Hi there, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing me tonight. 7211 Southwest Environmental Lab Street. I have strong concerns about this. I missed the first meeting about this facility, proposed facility. Marketing this business as organic is extremely misleading in my opinion. I'm worried about our groundwater. Everything is in this sludge sewage. They want to just dump on the ground on a mass scale, like she just said. It contains PFAS. I do not believe that all the toxins are removed from this before the land application. It contains diseases causing pathogens that are known to cause lung and intestinal infections, bacteria like E. coli, Salmonella, Enterica, and Vibrio cholera, which can cause typhoid fever and cholera. There's a new bacteria in the sewage spills in the state of Florida. This is all evidence in the state of Florida, called VRE. It's detected and it is resistant to vancomycin, the main used antibiotic to cure MRSA infections right now. Also think about it when people flush old prescriptions and poop out antibiotics, pain meds, street drugs, blood, and other bodily fluids. It's all in there, also parasites. The smell is the least of our worries, but there will be smell. Have you ever smelled the fertilizer Malonite? I have. I can smell the good smelling juice plant 5 miles away from my property on some nights. The next point I need to make is the potential flood damage and overflow. I can't believe they don't seem to have a plan for overflow. This is not North Florida, where they have their facilities. Claremont, Florida, where the land elevation is 148 feet above sea level, up to 214 in the same area. I found a really cool interactive map, Florida topography. You should check it out. The proposed area west of Florida Avenue off 70 is a 52-foot elevation at Florida Avenue and Northwest King Street, 42-foot elevation at the intersection of Florida Avenue and Pine Level Street. We saw the type of flooding, you've heard it, we saw the type of flooding that Ian brought for us. Downtown Arcadia at the post office is a 63-foot elevation, and the health department that flooded out and was ruined is at 40-foot elevation. My home had a professional elevation done that put it at 47.5 feet. Can we take a chance on all these dangerous things getting into the groundwater or floodwater? This is not personal, malicious, or heresy. Again, I am just trying to protect the quality of my life and our life and health. Once a dirty industry gets their foot in the door, it paves the way for Mosaic to get in. And you know, that's been our big fight. And I don't ask y'all for much, but this is right up there with the health of our county and the people who live here. And they make it sound great, but I don't believe it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vicki. Next, we'll call Miss Molly Bowen.
Molly Bowen, Northwest Eucalyptus Avenue, and everybody's pretty much said everything that's good. All your questions were good. I appreciate it. We did collect these petitions. I believe Kim gave them to her as 250 or more. And
Miss Molly, would you mind lifting the
this
thing up there?
Okay.
Thanks.
On Easter, I went out to the Pine Level Cemetery, where four of my relatives are. And as you're going there, when you turn off Florida, you get up there and you start going downhill on 70, downhill. And you turn into the cemetery. When you come out, you go again to the west, and it starts going uphill, on 70. So I pulled in to turn around, and I saw the big pipes they have out there, and I'm thinking, where are they going to put the culverts, right? But that's when I really noticed, when I looked over, and the tree line goes downhill. The Buzzard Spruce branch running through their property, clearly seen on all the maps, most of them anyway. I got this from the county, from the guy up there. You know, it's just, if they want to do it, fine, but do it somewhere else, because this is not the best place for it. Also, I wrote to the Department of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr.'s secretary. I mailed it so he would get it the next day. And the more I read it, the more I thought, I want the commissioners to read it. So I did make you copies, and I will hand it in. It's just something, a decision, like Ken said, it's not an easy one, but in the best interest of everybody in the, in the county. And like I said, the petitions, there's 15 on each page, and it's a thick stack. So you will recognize their names if you look at it, because it's everybody in this town that is against it. So maybe you'll take the time to do that, or, just try to make the right decision for everybody. And that's it.
Thank you. Are you going to share that with us, and we keep that for the record? Thank you. All right, next, Colleen Davis. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Colleen Davis, and I live on Northwest Eucalyptus, and I am here that I oppose it. I was going to relinquish my time to somebody, but they wound up in the hospital, so I really don't have anything prepared, but I am opposed to it, and I do agree with the people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job. Just being really quick. All right, next we'll go to Brooks Armstrong. Good evening.
Good evening. Brooks Armstrong, 7301 Red Rainy Road, Kona, Florida. So much as what I was going to say has already been said here. First of all, I want to thank Kenny Galt, people for protecting Peace River, and the ELR Harbor people are working together now, and we always should have been, I think, except that they were just formed. But this whole watershed is part of that Charlotte Harbor. So this, this Peace River, every little tributary that empties into the Horse Creek and into the Peace River is affecting a whole lot of people downstream. On one hand, I said this last time that, this is an alternative to synthetic fertilizers going on the ground, and it's also cheaper, and I sure appreciate that for the guy who's trying to make a living farming. And I hate to step on that, but I also feel that there's a lot of people who could be affected by if there's a detrimental effect downstream and in the water here in this county. So first of all, Andy asked me to say a few things to you guys, if I can pull this up. My phone will cooperate here. So this is Andy. He said, remind them that 26 million gallons a day are taken from the Peace River downstream of the Horse Creek, and that Desoto is one of 3 counties that draw from the PMRSA, I guess the Water Authority. Also, it is an established peer-reviewed reality, and if he's talking about an article that I have here, that biosolids of all grades contain metals, toxins, pharmaceuticals of many varieties, including birth control, Prozac, Xanax, and many more. And he doesn't even mention, that was Andy's comment, but he doesn't mention the PFASs. Earlier in the presentation by the applicant, they mentioned a company called they're right here. I guess it'd be a large Sinagro. They're biosolid composting company. They had made the comment, this is a 2025 press release by a group called Peer. And they claimed that they weren't putting PFASs into the ground. But when they studied it, when they looked at the facility itself, they were 13 times the level of PFASs in one case. And PFASs, PFOSs, and PFOAs, EPA has determined that there's no safe consumption level for these things. So I think there's a lot of unknowns in this potential project here. You know, I mean, if you guys could answer all your questions, first of all, the monitoring. I think it's been said that it's once every 3 years. I mean, there should be monitoring out there like every week, it seems to me, like with what might be happening. Sampling, who's going to do it? FDEP is going to do it. He mentioned that in Osceola County, their facility did overkill. They went above and beyond. I think you guys should make sure, if nothing else, that they go above and beyond here as well if you permit this. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Brooks. Next, I'd like to call Kathy Connolly down. Oh, okay, thank you. And next, Joe Johns is our next card we come to. Good evening.
Hello. Joe Johns, 8423 Southwest Riverside Drive, and then the southwest corner of the county. Peace River's out back right behind my house. Most of my yard is in the floodplain. You know how much floodwaters this place has had recently with the hurricanes and tropical storms. And what caught my ear to this is they're talking about these ponds that were going to be on there, and if they overflowed, they would overflow. And it looks to me like some kind of waterway is right next to it. All this crap gets into it and comes downstream to visit me. If I get flooded, all that stuff comes onto my property, possibly into my house, and ruins everything I have. This roadblock coming downstream. Peace River's dirty enough as it is. Back in '72, as a kid, I would play in the Peace River, kayak, canoe in it. I noticed the difference between then and now and how bad the river has gotten. I don't think we need to take a chance on allowing this stuff to accidentally overflow into the river. And if anybody in the county that was affected by it turned to sue them, they'd just file bankruptcy and walk away and leave us all holding the bag. Now they talk about the trucks coming in and out of there. Just because you have one entrance in there, do we have a turn lane? Do we have acceleration lanes that are gonna put on Highway 70? Because I know what the problem is at the Walmart warehouse right now, not having a traffic light or acceleration lanes for all the trucks going in and out of that place. And I see the same problem coming up here. I really hope you vote against this. This county should not be a dumping ground for all of this kind of crap, in my opinion. I hope you vote it down. I'm opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Next, Liliana. I'll let you say your last name, make sure I don't say it wrong.
Liliana Ruiz, 1943 Northwest Pine Creek Avenue. I emailed you guys on May 31st. I didn't get a response from any of you, so I'm just going to read parts of that.
May 31st.
Per UF-IFAS, biosolids are solid, semi-solid, or liquid materials resulting from the treatment of domestic sewage sludge. And I have a question, building off everybody else. Have studies been conducted at Mr. Arnold's other facilities and lands where it has spread to see if there has been an influx of health diseases, conditions such as childhood diseases, autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc.? I think it would be imperative to have this data for our community and for everyone's health. I hope you make the right decision for your constituents and the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last card is for David Stringer.
Hi, good evening. My name is David Strina. I live at 8731 Southwest Deer Trail. That is on the Horse Creek. I believe I can talk on this, facts about this, not emotions. So I'm a Florida state licensed plumbing contractor and an expert in drainage and water filtration. If you approve this, it will create a higher level of nutrients. Phosphorus in the Peace River and Horse Creek. There's no denying that. As we all know, when it rains, where water runs downhill, into the ditches, into the creeks, into the river. High nutrients and high phosphorus has already been proven to cause this mass amount of algae blooms that we've seen down south. This practice has already been shut down before. I believe confidently you guys will shut it down again. When we test wells, we test for bacteria, lead, fecal matter, E. coli. All these can come from biosolids. So that's all I got. You guys have a good night and vote no.
Thank you, Mr. David Serena. All right. So we're going to give the applicant an opportunity to present rebuttal. My advice would be don't try to do rebuttal on every single comment made. I've seen you making copious notes, but we'll be here until tomorrow if you do that. So we've heard a lot of things and we've heard a lot from y'all, and I think we know a lot that we don't need to rebut every single claim, but that's up to you. So give you the opportunity. I do have a couple questions, and I think our board trustee probably know about a few of the things that were brought up. And if you'd like, we could just start with those. Okay, that way we might hit some of the things. Would the board like to go ahead and, do you have any questions on mine to ask the applicant, based on some of the conversations that we've heard here?
Mr. Chair, if I could, just on a couple of things, the sampling and frequency that Mr. Armstrong brought up, I know you probably took notes on that, and at my site visit at the Keensville location with Josh and Jason, is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
It was talked about as far as the sampling, the third-party sampling, how often does that happen? And then it is regulated by FDAX, but then also EPA, DEP?
It's done monthly. It's required to be done monthly as part of our operating permit. It was alleged that it was done every 3 years or something, but it's done, and it is in fact, we're mandated to do it monthly. Our testing is done by Eurofins Labs, and as I testified before, right when the results are in, those results are shared. They email those results to our plant manager, and FDEP gets a copy. And they are always within regulation. We haven't had any in 10 years, ever since we opened.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for right now.
Just to dovetail on Commissioner Gross's question, what's the protocol on who can pull the test in the chain of custody on how it gets to the lab?
We were having Eurofins do the testing up until about maybe, I guess, mid-summer last year, and they stopped their courier service and asked us to pull the samples, and either myself or the plant manager or my sons pull the samples. They're put on ice and taken to Eurofins in Altamont Springs, or we can use a lab in Tampa. There's 3 or 4 labs that we can use. But up until about the middle of last summer, their service, they offered that. And we may find somebody that can offer it again too, because the drive is pretty substantial.
Just to me, in different industries, things are different, but having an independent third party that pulls a sample and has responsibility of taking it to the lab and things of that nature would make sense to me. Just a thought while we're on that. But I'll let Commissioner Langford have the floor.
Well, I've got two new things that I've learned here in the last 30 days about PFAS and PFAS, and what other acronyms they come up with on this stuff. But tell me about PFAS and PFAS in your material. Is those materials tested for as part of your testing that you have to do, or no?
The PFAS test, because of the number of different constituents, and we have not tested for that because it's a target. If you want a specific test run for a particular chemical, then you would have to request that from the lab. And PFAS, as I spoke with an expert, 3 experts in the last 2 weeks, and they are like, well, you would have to have a specific chemical that you're testing for, and they said it's present in rainwater, it's present on asphalt, due to runoff from an asphalt road, for example, and in food containers, and this, that, and the other, and is virtually everywhere. It's a matter of our detection. The way it was described to me is the detection equipment has gotten so sophisticated that as I was told, it's gotten so sophisticated that they can pick up 1 part per trillion in like a huge amount of water, and most of the time, actually, a lot of this issue is related to more to effluent than the biosolids. Any PFAS that's water soluble, which most are, that is going into the effluent stream, which then the municipalities handle that through either reclaimed water on golf courses, homeowners' yards, put into, in some cases, rivers, ocean outfalls, and then we have deep well injection, all the different methods of dealing with effluent. So biosolids shouldn't be singled out as, oh, this has got the PFAS. We've got the larger part of that component is actually in the effluent, and that's, we're not handling any effluent.
Okay, so none of your tests you do have anything to do with PFAS or PFAS?
If we are requested to do a specific test for specific compound, then we could, but the target is so broad, it would be problematic for a layperson, or even someone that's not fully trained in the industry to say, okay, well, we want you to test for these chemicals or the presence of this material and if we're composting biosolids, a lot of this material is because of the heat and the duration, it does break down, and it's alleged that it's, this is sewage sludge, and it's in the sewage sludge. It's in the effluent that's going to the ponds and stuff. And when the regulatory agencies say 1 part per trillion it's detectable, does that set off an alarm? I would like to defer some of this questioning to either Tom or Rick regarding PFAS.
Okay. So, but DEP or EPA does not require you to test for any PFAS or PFAS, any of it?
That's correct. And if we are required to test for a panel in the future, we will adhere to all federal, state, and local requirements. I've said that before, and we would build that into the cost of our operation. Our tipping fees would reflect that. As regulatory parameters change, and they, arguably they become more and more restrictive for every industry, whether it's food preparation or fertilizer manufacturing, even synthetics. It's gotten more regulated. I mean, regulation that we all know has become, more intense as time goes on.
And it's become
as I said, we will adhere to all federal, state, and local laws. We have to, because it's part of our permit. And we have to, at some point, trust the people that are making the rules and regulations that we need to adhere to. And a lot of that is done through, and I know that the opposition would say you can't trust the people making the rules and regulations. Well, who are you going to trust? I mean, the officials are relying on studies that are done by universities, by PhDs, by experts. They listen to both sides. They listen to people that are very conservative versus people that are more liberal with the particular subjects, and they come up with the policies. They are the experts. We are not. I don't think anyone here in this room is qualified to just make a policy or set levels and set limits. I mean, we've got there's PFAS in our drinking water that comes from the city. Do we shut that down? No. I mean, we're all moving through this with the best interest of, I know that I can speak for my company with this, is we are moving forward with adherence to all regulations, and assuming that the regulations are appropriate. We have to. I've heard all of this. The whole notion about we need to advocate for a more sustainable method of producing or solving this biosolids thing. Well, the composting is by far the most sustainable option. The industry-wide, globally, especially in agricultural areas, composting is by far the most sustainable method to convert biosolids, which is treated into fertilizer. The spreader operators that we have we don't have people that are sickened. Maybe that, I mean, if that is substantiated with, I don't even want to go into that. There are setbacks. It was alleged that there are no setbacks, but there was maybe one that was 15 feet. I just looked at the plans here. There's setbacks that are 50 and 100 feet. They're all to code. Nutrient management plan, yes, there is a nutrient management plan. It's required. It's required as part of our permit. The monitoring is done monthly, as I said. Capacity. No one's going to watch that this is a gateway to an unlimited amount of trucks and the county's going to be overrun. That's not true at all. The fact that the FDEP has we have a limitation on our permit, and if it's X number of tons per month, or it's per year, we're permitted per dry tons per year, based on what facility, the facility capacity, the surface area, the throughput, the percent solids of the material coming in. Our process, the composting processes, there's different types of composting processes. The MSAT method versus the static aerated pile. We have parameters that we have to adhere to. So if, for example, at the end of the month, it looks like we've already hit that number, we have to stop, or we have to slow down. But at the end of the year, by the end of the year, we can't be over. And we never have gone over. We watch that. That's part of our operations. We know how many tons at the end of the week, end of the month, end of the quarter, and the end of the year, we adhere to our permit. Cattle grazing, it was said that you can't apply it because, cattle are grazing. It's thought that was rules, that was that was a day, like years ago, when people would apply the different types of or less treated material. That's not composted Class AA fertilizer. I mean, Class AA fertilizer is the same fertilizer we buy at the store if we go get synthetic fertilizer, which has biosolids in it, as I said.
Mr. John, I wanted to go back to something you were just talking about. Your permit, 105,000 tons a year is what the permit says. On the work days in a year, that's about 17 loads a day. 22 ton loads. If the facility that you have proposed, could it really produce that much? With the 5 barns, how many windrows was it each per barn? 5? 25. So the 5 barns with 5 windrows each, could they produce that much? 17 loads of finished?
Well,
a day?
The 105 is dry, and then we have moisture to deal with, and the math that goes into that, I would need to meet with the engineer. We'd have to sit down for a while and go back over that. But actually, I believe it's part of, all of that math is shown in the permit. You take the amount coming in, the percent solids, it's broken down into how much material is added into the material, and then it's the derivatives of where you end up with the tonnage or the throughput. And then it's also based on your surface area of the asphalt and how much is going to be underneath the building at one time, and also the size of the windrows are actually dictated by the size of the equipment. So if you have a Scarab mixer and the width is 18 feet and the height is 8, and then you've got another machine that's a 22-foot machine, and you have a 10-foot high windrow, or the tunnel they call it, you have a lot faster, or you have a lot higher volume per square foot of the facility. The facility can be 500 feet long and 100 feet wide, but you can put exponentially more in there, and you can process exponentially more material based on the width and the height of the machine.
So Tom kind of touched on it, and I just wanted to make sure that, but from this facility operating at full capacity as proposed, when we're driving by it on 70 with a wind blowing out of the north, we're not gonna have a strong odor. That's, Tom seemed pretty confident. That's a pretty strong statement.
We're not allowed by permit to have any off-site odors. The state, it's part of our permit, no off-site odors. Now, inside the facility, in the 30 acre work area, obviously you're gonna have some odor inside that work area, but outside that work area, the material that we take off of the grounds of the facility is a registered fertilizer. And if you apply registered fertilizer to a field, whether it be biosolids that we purchase from Port Charlotte or the Indian Reservation, or we buy synthetic fertilizer from one of the fertilizer manufacturers, that product, or chicken manure for that matter, that product has odor. I mean, that falls under the Right to Farm Act. But that product, if it is treated properly and goes through time and temperature and has been tested and has been produced according to our permit, and then we apply it to a field, and someone complains about that odor, that's the same as complaining about chicken manure or synthetic fertilizer.
I'm talking about the plant. I'm talking about the plant with the
No,
material.
we're not allowed by permit. Our permit could be revoked. And I don't have problems at the other facilities. And
do you think is your permit specific to your process, or the guys who do it that just old fashioned make big windrows and let it sit there and rot? Are they under the same permit with the same kind of requirement? Do you know that? Or is your process different?
My process is completely different from theirs. I can't answer that question because they have a different process. That's a proprietary process, actually. I mean, they have an enzyme that they put on, and they have it's a patented enzyme they use, and it's a completely different. I mean, it's composting, but they use a different process, and they put it in big piles and let it sit for a long period of time. We have a throughput that's faster, but it is more involved, and we make a higher quality product, and we are, I do want to stress this, we're not required to have these buildings, but it is a luxury, and we're not required to have asphalt either. But to put a facility on asphalt optionally, and underneath, to do your actual composting and your windrowing under buildings, when you get in the rainy season, and it's just, you walk in there, or you drive through the facility, and it's nice and dry, like you guys had, those of you that visited our facilities, it's really nice during the rainy season, because it's just as dry then as it is, during the dry season, like it is now. I do want to point out too, it was stated earlier that this material has been taken off of the market not available. Yes, yes, it is. I bought,
Like I said, Mr. John, there's a lot of stuff you could.
yeah, I bought it from Lowe's and Home Depot, and I have it here with me. It is available for sale, and you can, they blend it in at the synthetic fertilizer plants. So if you have any other questions for me, or I could call up any of the additional experts here.
I just would like to address one thing.
Yeah, he's been chomping at the bit to say something. I don't know what it is.
PFAS is not tested in biosolids for a simple reason.
Can you step up to the mic, please? Thank you.
EPA, FDA,
Name and address.
CDC. What?
Name and address.
Name and address
Name and
for the
address
record.
again.
Okay, Rick Leon, 816 Alicia Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 32604. The reason why PFAS is not tested on biosolids is very simple. EPA, FDC, FDA, CDC, they all check and test for all of these contaminants, absolutely. And they have determined, EPA has determined, that there is no need to sample PFAS in biosolids because there is no evidence. Simple as that. There is no evidence that PFAS is significantly higher in biosolids or in composite or fertilizer than in any other products there is. We are going to find PFAS everywhere. That's the fact of life. But biosolids, composting, does not have a higher significant amount of any of this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, and it might be for Mr. Tom. And you and Mr. John's years of experience, you know, combined several years and decades, as you mentioned earlier.
You want me to say my name?
Please. Yes.
Tom Oldermont, 858 Hunt Circle, Lake Wells, Florida.
So my question is, why human waste? You know, if in a perfect world, I'm sure in the past, over your years of experience, you've tested cattle, hog, chicken, all types, goat, whatever they make, horse. I saw in the pamphlet that we had, you know, horse manure. Is there a better solution in a perfect world other than human waste?
Well, the idea of being able to recycle the human waste along with animal waste, I mean, good gosh, I even processed chicken manure one time and about knocked the socks off. But it's very important. I mean, it is absolutely important that we continue to recycle our nutrients. I mean, you know, we can't just keep throwing stuff in and as far as like the PFAS and things like that, PFAS is everywhere. And I'm gonna tell you that, and I hate to say this, but I just got off the phone earlier today with a guy, and one of the worst scenarios for getting PFAS into your house, into your well, is from your septic tank. So everybody that's got septic tanks and wells, you know, it is everywhere. It's in the, what do you call that stuff you use between your teeth that the dentist always yells at me about? Dental floss, yeah, sorry. Obviously, I don't floss everything. But dental floss, carpeting, it is everywhere. It is everywhere. Rainwater, it's in our bloodstream. It's everywhere. And you know, it's been everywhere for a long, long time now. It's just like John said, now they've come up with nanotechnology and all this different ways of testing and finding things. They're finding new stuff every day. But that's why they change rules and regulations. But the reason being with human waste is because we got to do something with it. And it's been spread raw for years everywhere, which you guys were part of down here in, you know, in this county. And they did a terrible job of it back then. And we've moved way past all that. We've got to the point now where we, you know, in years of studies, and, you know, people talk about like buying organic fertilizer and against this. Our material is tested more than any other fertilizer. And let's touch on real quick this in pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are highly water soluble. 90% of the stuff that goes down the drain goes back into whatever stream of water you put it in. It stays with the liquid. It comes out during the watering process. It's highly water soluble. Correct?
Mr. Tom, I guess my question is, in your testing in the years past,
yes,
did you get better results out of animal feces, whether it be hog,
I see what you're getting at.
manure? I'm just curious,
No,
why
it's-
human?
well-
Is it something in the chemicals when
No,
heated?
actually,
or-
when it comes to composting, this is what's really neat about composting, and John touched on it a little bit too before with like pre-consumer food waste. You know, if you take pre-consumer food waste, you take biosolids, you take post-consumer food waste, you take animal poop, you know, you mix it all together with the yard waste, and after 45 days, you couldn't tell one from the other. Even tested, you couldn't tell one from the other.
I'd like to.
No,
Just
no,
curious.
no.
No, the testing. Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, sir.
I did experiments with,
You need to speak into the mic, sir.
John Arnold with Osceola Organics. I did some experiments back maybe 12 years ago with Larkin Dairy over in Okeechobee. And they had a USDA paid for facility, and he wasn't getting temperatures with cow manure. They put cow manure in all of the hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to rotate and mix, and it was an in-vessel composter, and the cow manure it had so much cellulose in it, and there's not enough nutrients in it. Cow manure, you can take cow manure and try to compost it. What we concluded, and there's plenty of studies that'll substantiate this, just straight cow manure doesn't have enough urea, that doesn't have enough nutrients in it to get very hot and to truly compost. It'll get some temperature and then it just dies off. However, you put biosolids with the cow manure or biosolids with horse manure or food waste and whatnot, and you get the temperatures you need for pathogen reduction, which is above 131 for the 15 days in our case, with using our method of composting, which we mix with the big scarab, the big mixing machine that Jared and Miss Judy saw at those two facilities. Our mixers mix every 2 to 3 days, and it aerates everything, and we have really good temperatures. I mean, we get over 150. It tends to hover at 160 degrees. But without biosolids, all these piles of wood chips you see out on 70, whether they're in Desoto County or off 17 or wherever, and with these big storm piles, and they're immense, acres of them, tens of thousands of loads are stockpiled around, and it's just gonna sit. All it is ground up wood waste. A little bit warm in the middle, but they don't have the nutrients required. The biosolids, I guess in the end, to answer your question, is once wastewater comes in and it's converted into sludge and then it's digested in a wastewater treatment plant, and the biosolids are the treated result of that, there's still enough nutrients in there when you mix it with wood chips, wood waste, storm debris, hay, cow manure, that all those nutrients that are residual from the wastewater treatment plant, they make this process. They make the process, and that's why the agricultural interests want this material. They need it. It's in high demand wherever we go.
Thank you.
That answers your questions, Commissioner Hickok.
Thank you.
It's probably a lot easier to collect the human stuff in one place than it is.
Together.
Cow pies.
Commissioner Jafford, do you have a question?
I do. These windrows, do they ever catch on fire, or have you had any fires from them? The reason I said that is, in Lee County, they had one, had a terrible time getting it out.
Yes, the answer is with our process, as part of our permit, we are not allowed, and nor do I want to. I specifically omitted it and don't want it in our process so we could get a fire exemption, and we've never had fires at any of our facilities, and it's because we don't take fats, oils, or grease. That's, the acronym for that is FOG, and a lot of composting facilities are tempted to take that material, and it does make your piles, the windrows, it makes them hot, and it speeds the process. There's a lot of caloric value, if you will, to all of that material, and the microbes devour and get really hot on fog, the fat soils and grease, and it's dewatered. I mean, it's just, and the other thing that makes fog problematic, not only is the fire, more so is the odor. And we don't take it, it's not part of our permit, I promise you that's the truth, and we, that's why we have a low odor, as you saw, it was very low odor. It's a great operation, and no, we've never had a fire, ever.
So you don't accept?
Fog.
How do you know the difference if somebody brings it in or, say,
Well, what fog is all the grease traps and all that stuff. So it comes in like gel.
Oh, okay.
It goes, I mean,
Okay.
they don't even.
You have to speak into the mic sorry, we're trying to capture everything for the record. So.
Well, yeah, it's, as he was saying, it's a completely different industry. It's different vendors or people that collect it, collection companies, and we don't deal with them. It's a whole different business.
Okay, I just was.
And I remember from the previous meeting, you guys inspect the different facilities that you accept from. You don't accept just from any facility, biosolid facility. You have your specific ones that you prefer, that you said is really good, really clean, and that's what you go with, because.
And Arcadia is actually, with my site visit today, and I brought some, I have it here, and you can open it up, and it has absolutely no odor. It smells like it has a fragrance of potting soil. I mean, seriously, I have it with me, and anybody here is welcome to open it, pass it around. I mean, they do a great job. Although it's an old antiquated plant, Dominic does an excellent job of running the plant from, I mean, the end result is there, yes.
Thank you, I have no further.
Can I do one more?
No.
Just a quick rebuttal?
Just a real quick one.
And this is something that's always drove me crazy. And, you know, I live in Central Florida with all the phosphate mines and all that, you know, and you know, here us biosolids guys get in trouble for phosphates and stuff like that. And it's simply a perception issue. The problem we have in Florida, and I think I covered this last time, I'm just gonna get real brief on it. Our soil right now is about 3.5 to 4% cation exchange capacity. It should be 12, okay? We just don't have good soil in Florida. And what happens when you use commercial fertilizer, which is highly water soluble, it gets in the ground and it transfers. It washes through, it goes wherever it wants to go. Now, if we come back in with a organic matter, such as what we make, compost, biosolids, it firms up that soil. You can raise that tilth up to about 8. And at that point then, even when you do come back in with commercial fertilizer, that commercial fertilizer is gonna stay put. It's not
Commercial
gonna wash off.
fertilizer ain't never gonna be here.
And also too, it lowers your need for water, and it binds up the nutrients within the root zone so the plants can take it up. And, you know, biosolids always get such and it's unfounded, you know, it's much more environmentally safe than fertilizer by tenfold.
Before you run off, I want to go back to something, because I didn't get one question led to another. One question led to another, and I didn't get to finish my original question on to. You told me earlier tonight that it takes around 40 loads to make a windrow for 400
Off and on, yeah.
Yeah. So if there's 4 windrows to a barn, that'd be roughly 160 loads.
correct? Okay, and y'all planning on having 5 barns eventually? Okay, so that'd be 800 loads, roughly?
Probably mathematically figure out that.
Okay.
It's
So-
rotating in and out all the time, you know.
Yeah, and so with that being said, if it's, if you're turning out your product every 14 days, then basically 14 days later, there'd be another 800 loads coming in.
It'd be, no, it wouldn't be 14 days, it'd be more.
He said it has to sit 14 days.
Y'all gotta get to the mic. We do hold material inside the barns to continue curing, so we have the barns for curing capacity as well. There are times where if we need to move it outside and it's cured and it's done and it's ready to go, we can take it outside. It gives us the luxury of having capacity. So theoretically, the math may show that the material we have, it may show that we have more, and I like to err on the side of caution and have more capacity than we have incoming material. So if the
Thanks, guys. Share the stream.
throughput.
Hopefully
of the
they're
facility
about to make
was,
their decision
we can
soon.
have 1,000 loads out there at any given time and going through this process, but we have 400. We have room for it to cure. We're taking more time. Okay. Well, Time is our friend. I go back to my previous question I asked earlier tonight. How long does it take to cure if you put a brand new windrow in today? How long will it take that windrow to cure before it's ready to go outside or be screened or whatever you're gonna do with it when you get done?
It's usually right around 20 days by the time it heats up, and by the time the whole thing gets heated up to the 14 days. It takes 20 to 23 days to get to that point. And at that point, we can move it.
Back up to the mic again there, Tom, sorry.
Not saying that we're gonna move it, but we can. So if we need that space, we'll move it. You know, if we don't need that space, you know, why would we move something a bunch of times?
Well, I'm guessing that you would want to move it as quickly as possible, because if there's such a demand for it and everybody's wanting it, you would want to be moving it out as quick as you possibly could.
But like I say, it'd be at our leisure after the actual process. And the curing actually comes after the heat starts to go down. And then it sits there and rests for a while, and that's when we screen it. Because you have to let it cure a little bit too.
Okay. So does the curing process go on under the barn?
It can. It doesn't have to. It can go on anywhere. We can take it off the site, and I can put it in your front yard and let it cure out of that. Well, we wouldn't, but I'm just saying we could, you know.
Once we've met the time and temperature and it's been released to spread, and then we take it out and set it out on the asphalt, it could sit there for an unlimited amount of time. And the thing though that with letting it sit like that is it's better with time, because it continues to. We're required to do the time and temperature of the 15 days, but material that is 2 or 3 months old is broken down more. We don't have as many overs. The product is just, well, it's just part of the natural process. I mean, composting is the time and area consuming process. And if we have time and we have the area, the more area we have, the more time we have, the better the product is. Okay, so I guess what I was trying to get at is, in figuring this out, is just I've done some rough math, and I'm just maximum truck traffic in and out of there in 30 days time, if everything's rocking and rolling. Guesstimation from y'all.
I would
truck traffic, thousand trucks a month.
It's gonna be limited to our DEP permit, and all I can tell you, the answer to that is to take the wet tons. The ultimate answer to this is to take the wet tons, or excuse me, the dry tons, and add the water back to it. So if you have an average material that comes in at 15% solids, so it's gonna be 85% moisture. So you take the weight of the 15
plus 80, you have to add 85% moisture to it. So if you had 10,000 pounds of dry material, that's the dry weight, and that's a mathematical
Many.
equivalency. So you're gonna have 85,000 pounds of material because it's 85%, excuse me. If it's 15% solids, it's gonna have 85% moisture, you're gonna have 100,000 pounds of material. And if our permit said that we're allowed, for example,
It's on your calendar.
1,000 pounds of dry material, then you would take your 15% and figure out how many truckloads you would have for the 1,000 pounds of dry material for your permit. So the permit dictates not our operations, it's the permit. And it's been our experience to have a facility that is a little bit, you build a facility larger than your permit capacity in order to give you the luxury of having buildings for curing and to not be stressed and storage and just not to have it maxed out.
I have something to add there real quick. I think it got more complicated than it needed to be to answer Commissioner Langford's question. The permit says the facility will distribute up to 105,000 dry tons a year of the Class AA compost. So that's the finished compost. So that's 4,700 loads a year, semi-loads at 22 tons each, 17 loads a day.
I trust you, Matt.
That's what that is. But when the on-site mulch is used up, if you're looking for trips, you gotta haul, it's a 2-to-1 ratio for green waste to biosolids. So you've gotta haul in at a minimum 17 loads a day and probably a little bit more than that of green waste to, but that's a little bit arbitrary trying to figure that number. But
it is because
the long-term number is not just gonna be based on not ever having to haul something in. I think, is that what you're getting at?
No, I was just saying at full capacity, all 5 barns are built, everything's sitting there. How many loads a month, basically is what I was trying to get at, would you be hauling in there if you're full capacity? I know you're probably only gonna start out with maybe 20 loads or 25 loads every so often when you're starting out, but I'm talking at the end game, when you've got all 5 barns and you're up and running, how many semis a month will be coming in there hauling you goods? Hauling in, what you're gonna be composting, whatever you wanna call it.
My engineer's working on some math right now. In the meantime, I do want to say that it's important for everyone to recognize we do have around 8,000 tractor trailer loads of mulch that has been put out there since Ian.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the mulch. Mulch is gonna be there for a while. We've been looking at it for a long while. I'm just worried about trucks bringing you material from wastewater treatment plants. Roughly how many a month when you're up to full capacity?
1,000.
Okay, 1,000 would be incoming per month if we were running full bore, everything. And you gotta remember, the outgoing material will be less. For one thing, it's probably out of
Be a third, basically a third.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically a third.
And the same way with the yard waste, like I said before, the 1 truckload of yard waste that comes in those 100-yard trucks, because it's so light and fluffy, so they can haul a pile up. Usually one of those trucks will treat anywhere from 3 to 5 of our loads of biosolids, just for one of those trucks. Or more, depending if it's dry. Sure, so.
On the permit, it says 2-to-1 green waste to biosolids.
Yeah. That's what, yeah. And that's by, like I said, that's by volume. So 1 loader bucket of, 1 ton of biosolids is the same,
Elton's doing his
be
math
like two
right now.
hundred pounds of yard waste in the same box.
He's fixing it. He's fixing it.
I need to interject something that, one of the things about my process is once the material, when you put it under building, and you're not dealing with rain, and you're doing a lot of your composting it under cover with the sunlight, we have learned that you don't need
Those
near
are
as
bad,
much,
okay.
green waste. And my facility has, I actually have a sample here of the material that came from Claremont, and there is, the industry standard is 2 to 1. Sometimes I've seen it in place, I've seen permits that say 3 to 1. The Miami-Dade process, and this is where I learned this processing from, is I went to Miami-Dade, Black Point, and they don't use any green waste, 0. No green waste for the entire facility of 250 million gallon a day facility. What they do is they just dry it in the sun, and the carbon that's in the material is enough to create the to get the composting process going. And once the material heats up, they just keep adding biosolids to the pile, the windrows, and they keep adding and adding and adding until the windrow gets up to a large enough size with percent solids of about 50%, where it's 50% moisture, 50% solids, and then they stop adding material to it. They put the probes in, and then they do their 15 days of time of retention. They stir it up every 3 days, or they mix it every 3 days. But they don't use any green waste, no yard waste at all. So the assumption that we're going to have green waste, we're going to use up Mr. Hollingsworth's green waste, but my plan, and I know that we can do this, although it is nice to use green waste because you're utilizing a lot of carbon and the extra bulk, and it does cost more money to handle it and process it with green waste because it actually kind of slows your process down because you're using all this extra, you've got all this extra material to deal with and material handling equipment. But when you make it with a very little amount of green waste, because we do put it in there as part of our permit, but we use such a small amount. The Miami process, DEP, although it reaches time and temperature, that's a municipality that they have their own luxury, they have their own, that district down there, they want us to do a pilot to do the Miami process in another DEP, an FDEP district, and I call it the Miami process because it doesn't, I coined that, but it doesn't, they don't use green waste. But if we're gonna do it in other districts, we just have to do a pilot and prove that the time and temperature without green waste is viable. And I know it is because I do it. It's, I was even told by Denise Judy, she's retired now, but she was the head of the Central District in Orlando. She said, if it's in your permit that you need to put green waste in it to get you up and running, because otherwise you're gonna have to do a pilot and it's gonna take you about a year. She said, I know that the Miami process works. I know what you're talking about. I don't care if you put a tablespoon of green waste on this windrow, but just do that. And as long as you get your time and temperature, and then you test for, you test material monthly, and it all comes back clean, then you're good to go. And that's how our first permit was issued, in fact. And I'm very proud of the ability to compost without the dependency on a lot of green waste. And I intend to do a pilot and show that we can make a milorganite product. I mean, a straight biosolids-like product. And I'd like to conclude at least what I'm talking about right now is this whole thing about biosolids getting into the watershed and all that. I mean, synthetics are the enemy, and we have an alternative that is the better way to go, and it's to use organic-based forms of nutrients agriculture rather than synthetic. It's just hands down. We all know that globally. It's true. I'm gonna sit if you need me for anything else.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Oh, my God.
One thing that's been said,
Give us your name and address.
B.C. Hollingsworth, 8326 Northwest Pine Level. But one thing that hadn't been said tonight is that all the herbicides that have been used all over the place and everything else has just decreased microbes out. There's no microbes anymore. Microbes makes soil live. And this product grows microbes and grows them back. Especially in orange groves. It does. So,
Bless you. All right, any other questions for the applicant?
No,
From the
please,
board?
God, no.
Mr. Chair, if there's no further questions, we got staff?
Does staff have anything else that they would like to present? Thank you. Y'all are so patient.
I just have a couple of quick notes just for the record. So we heard a lot about traffic tonight, and just as a reminder, access is taken from a DOT roadway. So DOT is in charge of managing access and trips and improvements and things like that that would be required. You heard that the Peace River, there are many different adjectives used. What the state classifies it as is an impaired water body, which is not unique to the Peace River. There are many, many impaired water bodies in the state of Florida. And FDEP actually regulates that. It's looked at through their ERP, all these acronyms, sorry, Environmental Resource Permit, which I heard again that they have tonight. And the state looks at loads for various water bodies, and they manage that through something called total maximum daily loads, I think. I'm kind of getting out of my planning and into the engineering, so I'll stop there. There was mention about once every 3 years is not enough of to ensure, good operations, and I just want to remind the board that there are 2 conditions recommended in your staff report. One is standard language out of our code that allows or requires code enforcement, I think, to inspect every 3 years. And then there's another condition that also allows the county access at any time that they request it of the applicant with reasonable notice to access the site. So it's not just every 3 years, it's at least every 3 years. And then my last comment is if the board would like to limit the number of windrows or the area of these covered areas, I mean, there's nothing like that that's limited within this application. And I heard a lot of concerns about that, so just so that you know, if there is something that you want to place a limit on, it would need to be done through a condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Serbia. One of the things, I don't know that we really can get a definitive answer on it, but when you go to the DOT and ask them for access to a state road, the easiest thing to do is say a few trips per day based on the minimum number you can think of. But we've had some facilities that, one of them's on Highway 17 that turned into be completely inadequate estimate of trips per day, really warranted something different. So that's kind of, I think we kept going around in different ways, but they don't go back and count the trucks later very often until there's a long series of lots of problems with the intersection. Like it takes lots of problems even to tally things like that sometimes. So we got to be honest about how many trucks are going to be going in there when it's going at full operation, because especially through there, everybody's booking it. There's not a lot of traffic stops right through there, and now there's going to be a certain amount of additional vehicles that will be stopped to turn in. So we just want to make sure that's not really our purview, I guess, but we're aware of where things have not been optimal in other places, and we just wanna recognize that. Does the board have any other comments before we close the public hearing, or questions they'd like to get answered?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
there's no further questions, make a motion to close public hearing. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Gross to close the public hearing, second by Commissioner Daycox. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We can begin deliberations post public hearing.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
If it's all right, I'll go ahead and kind of get it off here, I think. So we've heard a lot of different things over the last 2 meetings, and I get both sides of this deal wholeheartedly. And so, you know, as a producer, we absolutely need other sources of fertilizer, and synthetic is a challenging deal. It does impact all of our watersheds, everything else. Producers, I think I said in the last meeting, producers can't continue to afford these high input costs, that we've got to have another source. All of us as human beings take advantage of that agriculture benefit because we sit down at the table 2 or 3 times a day, maybe more. And so, you know, there is a benefit to that if the producer can move on his lesser input costs but higher return on output, whatever commodity he's doing. But another important part of that is, you know, we as stewards of the land have to take care of the land. It will not take care of us. And you know, I think about this a lot because it's part of my life as a producer. I do it every day, but also am conscious of what we're doing, where we're putting it out, and how we're doing it. And we follow BMPs, which is best management practices. I know that these gentlemen do the same thing. And they're guidelines to one that are established through the state Department of Agriculture, and universities that allow us to give us guidance on how to handle products. But I'm also cautious of our environmental impact and what it does for future generations. And you know, it's kind of interesting today. We did 2 proclamations today. One is one of them was on water, and the first proclamation was proclaiming Water Conservation Month, and that's, you know, conserve water, be mindful of what you're doing. But the second one was, you know, proclaim Drinking Water Week, which is vital to what our Peace River is doing. We're feeding numerous counties, constituents, whether it's Charlotte, Manatee, and other places. And so we have to be mindful of that as we go forward. And that's the part that I go back to. I mean, I am a producer, but also, you know, I think about future generations, and I know that, you know, there's been a lot of talk, PFAS, these guys aren't creating that. We create it naturally as human beings. It's in everything we've got. But the other side is, we have to be mindful of where we're going and what we're doing, and look after our watersheds. And so, you know, at this point right now, I can't support it.
Wow, right on.
All right, who would like to take the next spot?
Mr. Chairman, I will. This has been a pretty tough deal. You know, I've heard from both sides. I'm an agriculture too. Try to raise calves. The only way you make any money raising calves is to raise them as cheap as you possibly can, and get them big as you possibly can in a short amount of time. But at the same time too, I serve on the Peace River Minnesota Water Supply Authority, have for probably the last 12 years. That is a critical water supply. Man, I think Mr. Brooks said earlier that it serves 3 counties. It does: Desoto County,
Charlotte County, Sarasota County, and in the future, will be serving Manatee County, because they're just about out of water. I know that country out there pretty good. I've been on it once or twice over the years, like actually more than that, but I worked there for a while, and I know them sloughs, and I know them creeks, and I know how high they can get, and I know how deep they can get just in regular rainy season. Do I think this product is the devil? No, I don't. But then at the same time, I don't know at this point in time what the downfall is or the upside of it is. And somebody said something here tonight that kind of helped me make my mind up, and that was, what will this do to benefit DeSoto County? Will it benefit DeSoto County in any way, shape, or form? We talked about the trucks. We finally got an answer that would be, roughly under, if we're going wide open, roughly 1,000 trucks a month. That's a lot of trucks for just a normal turn off and turn on. You look down, you can go down 17. Walmart trucks pull right out in front, block both lanes, going north or south, whatever they have to do to get in and get out till they get tired of waiting too. They finally just pull out in front of people. There's no decels there. There's no accelerating lanes or decel lanes. Same on 31 every single morning. Dodge dump trucks left and right, left and right. DOT, they said they got the capacity for the road, they turn them loose. There ain't no decel lanes there, there's no acceleration lanes there. They pull out in front of you all day long. So is it going to be a problem? Yes, it's going to be a problem. We're talking about rainfall. We've got 32 acres, and they're going to do their storm water and all that stuff there. But a 4.5 inch rain on a regular summer day, if you get a 4.5 inch rain, that's roughly 1 million gallons of water. It's dumped on that 32 acre site, unless my math's bad wrong. So, with all that being said, and us taking an oath to protect the health, safety, and welfare of DeSoto County, I would have to agree with Commissioner Gross that I'm probably going to vote nay on this tonight.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Can I add one more thing? And just because I visited the site, Mr. Arnold and Josh, I do believe you guys have got a good business and they're doing the right things. I just don't think that it's a benefit to the county as a whole. And we have to look at that whole reason. You guys do provide, a product, but we also have to look at it for all the constituents of our community. And so, I'll leave that at that.
I would just want to remind the board, it's not necessarily looking at whether the use provides a benefit to the county. However, you can rely on the fact that this could adversely affect the public interest based on the reasons that you've stated.
Yes, sir. And I think that's, where actually that, we have to look at the whole picture and understand that, there is going to be some, there could be or will be some fallout of this, and we have to protect the welfare of the community. And our neighbors.
To keep it in order, I'll add my thoughts next, and we'll move right on down the line. There are some risks with new things, and this has been a difficult thing for me to really figure out where to lie at on it, but since it's a special exception and with caveats that we would have the ability to stop it, if it was not functioning exactly the way that they said it was, if there were off-site impacts, if there were problems that arose that were significant, that were said to be not going to be a problem in the information that we were presented, or anything that negatively impacted the public health, I would be willing to approve this, motion, and I know that's probably not popular with the majority of the people here in the room tonight, but one thing that is gonna move the needle on this stuff is the more we do it, the better we're gonna get at it. And we do have the ability to stop it if there's something not happening right. And I do think we need to get better at recycling. I would rather recycle something than go through all of these expenditure of resources that it takes to create something new. I think it's the responsible thing to do. And the more that we're doing it, the better we're gonna get at it, the more efficient, and the better the end product will be. But, like I said though, with the special exception, I think that's a pretty key thing with an approval on something like this, because, the applicants made some pretty strong claims here. And if they don't do what they said they are gonna do, we can stop it. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I'll go ahead and yield to Commissioner Cox.
Saving you for first of all, I just wanted to say that, as most of us are, you know, I am pro-farmer, pro-rancher. You know, most of us have friends and family, that are involved in this profession in one way or another. It's what we grew up in and have been raised around, you know, most of our lives, and it's our livelihood, and for our country. And we have to produce fiber, food, all the above. And I've been all over on this one because I don't want to make a mistake that could harm, you know, or, you know, maybe hold back our farmers from maybe a potential good product that, and I do. I think it is, we can always get better in everything that we do and everything that we produce. And like Commissioner Desoto said, I think as time gets by, you know, it will be perfected. I said in the first meeting, just the unknowns. There's pros and cons, and I've been back and forth on this one the whole time since we brought it up the first meeting. But, you know, for me, like Commissioner Grove said, it's our job and duty to leave this place better than we found it. That's what I signed on to do, and just the simple fact and thinking of biosolids from, you know, out of county or wherever it may come from, just the thought of our county being kind of a dumping grounds for this material. Then I think about if this one goes through, who's to say they couldn't pop up all over the county? We couldn't stop it, you know. They could pop up all over if they're doing it the same way, as long as given the same, you know, territory, grounds, whatever it may be. So I thought about that a lot too. That weighed real heavy on my heart. But for me, you know, like I said, just everything we've gone back and forth with Mother Nature and our rivers, creeks, for me, it's a no. At this time, just the unknowns, and I do think it is a good product that I would put on my property. But like I said, I do understand there are still a lot of unknowns that are out there that could cause harm. And I hope and pray that I'm not, you know, causing harm to our farmers by not approving this and allowing this product to go through. But for me, weighing everything that we've gone over in all the meetings and time and studying and reviewing, at this time, it's a no for me.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Okay, I struggled with this thing, and, I went up there, and as far as the product goes, I fully believe in the product. I think it's good. I don't like the amount of trucks is some of what I don't like. And Ms. Serviette, if it was to go through, we do have the option to stop it if there's something that is not going right. Right? Wrong? What?
If it's a condition of the resolution, it has to be a specific condition that's violated, then the county would have recourse. The representations that are made on the record are not necessarily enforceable, it needs to be in the actual, condition and the resolution. And then, yes, you could take some action to revoke their special exception use approval or take some other action.
If we added some of those key points that are really
Yeah.
important whenever we did the resolution, if it was adopted, then they didn't stay consistent with us, then we could give them a path to compliance or take the special exception, I think, in the extreme case.
Okay, well, I guess I'm kinda like Commissioner Deerso. I don't like the water deal, I'm not from what I've gathered, it will not go into the aquifer. But if something happened down the line and we had the floods that we had or the hurricane that we had, then you would know, but you know what I'm saying?
You don't want
But
to take that chance.
I guess maybe I'm with Commissioner Deerso. We need the farmers. We're losing our farmers. We're in an ag county, and we're losing them a lot. And so I guess maybe I would approve it with the stipulation that we make sure that if something goes wrong or was to go wrong or whatever, that we could have it stopped. And that's mine.
It's kind of tough at there's impacts to everything that we do. We all get in our cars and start them, and we talk about one issue at a time up here, and every single thing that comes to this county has some kind of unintended or negative impact, every single thing. And we talk about all the reasons why we shouldn't do it, and a lot of them are very valid. But the challenge is the option to do nothing and us all to have no impacts and continue to stay alive is not an option. We are all going to continue to live the rest of our lives here, however many years God gave us, and we're all going to have an impact every day. So it's almost a little bit unfair to kind of think that we could just freeze everything and stop impacts. The impacts are happening every day, and we kind of all have to accept that. That's not really popular, and I probably didn't win the majority of friends by saying that, but I think it's a reality that we need to accept. We can't just throw down rules for everybody to follow and, then continue to drive our SUVs, keep our AC at 65 and all the other things that we do. Drive our boats around and burn gas and fly in airplanes. So I just want to double back down on that the option to stop all impacts is not an option and us stay alive. So we gotta be willing to look at ways to learn how to use resources and reuse them and exist here and take care of our ecosystem in the best way that we can. And I'm 100% just destroying the ecosystem for convenience. But one thing that'll get you a lot further in life is some good compromises from two points of view versus everybody holding their line, and you never make progress that way. But I'll get off my stump and I'll just leave it open for the board to make a motion to approve or deny or have more comments if we need to discuss it more.
Mr. Chair, if there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to deny the proposed resolution for the special exception with conditions and enter into the record for this development review report and the findings and conclusions and all other competent substantial evidence presented here at the hearing.
So I have a motion for denial from Commissioner Gross and a second from Commissioner Hickox. All those in favor of the denial, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed to the denial, say aye. Aye.
I said aye.
For the denial or approval? For the denial, okay. So the denial passes 3-2.
3-2.
Is there any other board, business to be brought before the board tonight? All right, hearing no other business, we're gonna call it adjourned.
Throw my trash away. Wow. That was intense. Good. How you doing? I need to get the fuck out of here. Oh, man. Huh?
Them angry hornets.
All right. I'm going to end this live stream, guys. Have a good one.
I thought that was, that's what I predicted, 3-2. I thought it was gonna be Judy, not
Yeah, right?